Thank you for the sake of those who will be listening to the recording. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's meeting. Made this and made ridiculous is simple. Arguably the best tuition center we have at Ridgeway campus. I'm saying this because most of you, or some of you, have been with us the past academic year, and you can attest to that. So today we are going to be having an orientation program to prepare us for the coming year, which is going to be fourth year. It is bulky, there's a lot of work needed, and guidance will be of great relevance. We're going to have this program starting from now up to about 18:30. Towards the end, we're going to talk about a very interesting segment of topics and how to go about these things. I understand most of us have been at Ridgeway and know how life goes there. And the most relevant thing that we benefit from is what we need to know and how we need to study. Just to take you through the program, which was already shared in the group, we're going to have segments. The first segment is going to be advice from doctors. These are people who have graduated, who've been in medical school, and they have gone through everything that we expect, that we are looking forward to, so they can give us the best advice. Then we're going to have our immediate seniors. These are people who are just an intake ahead of us. They're going to tell us the experience. As you understand, the best people to give us advice on how to go about these things are people who are just from there. The syllabus has not changed much. Lecturers have not changed much. Most of the questions they're going to ask you are going to be those that they were asked. So they are the best people to give us guidance. Then from there, we're going to have Chipo to just give us a talk on how to manage pressure. Then we'll have Frank to take us through the topics and what we're going to expect. What we're going to do is you're free to interrupt and ask questions as the session goes on, so that it should be an interactive session. If you have got a question, a presenter says something, you can raise your hand. There will be people to see your hand, or you can unmute yourself and say, I've got a question, then you'll be able to ask. The first segment for doctors is going to be as follows. The first person to speak will be Dr. Mick Mwila. Then we're going to have Dr. Simonga Chimuka. Then we're going to have Dr. Melissa and Dr. Kayumbo in that order. So Dr. Mick Mwila is going to start. As soon as Dr. Mick Mwila is done, Dr. Simonga is going to come in, then Dr. Melissa. Yeah, you follow each other in that succession. Then friends, because we've been together and we understand how these things work, we understand Zoom, we're not new to everything. Please feel free to stop the presenter and ask your question, get clarity where need be. So without further ado, I'll call upon Dr. Mick Mwila to come in with her presentation. Dr. Mick Mwila, please.
Unfortunately, she's from posting to say that she won't make it. So I don't think we'll have Dr. Mira Mwik.
Oh, okay. So in that case, I'll ask Dr. Emmanuel Kayumbo to come through. Dr. Emmanuel, please come through. Frank, just help me check if he's on the meeting so that we can bring them on as we proceed. If they're not available, we can bring them on.
I'm not really sure.
If Melissa and Dr. Chimuka, hello? If Melissa or Dr. Chimuka Simonga are here, please, you can take up the floor. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Melissa Mkalumamba Haketa, and I am a medical doctor. I just recently finished school. Apart from that, I do many other things. I'm a data analyst. I also garden. I'm into floriculture, and I like to play with different manure and soils. So that's who I am. And today I will just be sharing some of the tips and tricks that have made me survive medical school and my advice to our fourth years and our third years. So I'll first start this session by saying congratulations to all of you. Sometimes we never fully understand the magnitude, or we never fully understand how much we've accomplished when we are actually living in a moment that we once hoped for. I bet when you're in second year or when you're in first year, you wanted to get to Ridgeway, and now you're here, and you should take time to congratulate yourself that you've actually made it this far, because the journey is never easy. The journey is different for each person, no matter how easy it looks. So I'll get right into it. So medical school is not hard. I'll start by saying medical school is not hard. It is very bulky. You will have a lot of, especially with the preclinical years, you will have a lot of lectures and you will have a lot of practicals. There's just a lot going on. So in order for you to make it, you need to study to understand. And what do I mean by studying to understand? Yes, you could study to clear tests and exams, but it starts to show as you move up the ladder, because when you get to the clinical years, you'll be required to remember the information that you are learning in third year microbiology. And if you don't have that strong foundation, you find yourself having to study again what you should have already understood. So study to understand, and don't be a fanatic of huge and complex books or theories. Just try to understand the simple basics, and that will help you as you build up. Go for your lectures, because sometimes, and in most times, lecturers will guide you. If you sit down with a textbook today and try to go through everything, you will read what is irrelevant, but lecturers will guide you to what's relevant for you, for your course, and also for your exam. So go for lectures and actually pay attention to those lectures. Some lecturers are boring, but guess what? Maybe their exam will be based on their slides or what they were saying in class. Sometimes they even give you pointers like, this slide is coming in my exam. And if you didn't go for that lecture, you will be lost. Another thing is you should go through past papers. Don't go through past papers with the hope that they will repeat the past paper, because in some departments, they will always find new questions. Go through past papers because you need to get into your examiner's mind. You need to know how your examiner is going to set this paper up. You need to understand what their strategy is. Are they going to go for simple questions that just require you to know what the next word is for you to get the answer, or are they going to play around with questions? You need to go through as many past papers as you can. For me, I used to try to, when I'm studying a topic, I would go look for questions on that topic, and I won't try to memorize it's A, it's B, it's C. I'll try to first understand the questions. I'll try to look at the key concepts that they're trying to ask me. And then I would go and study, and then I would come back and answer those questions. And that really helped me. Then also, sometimes school becomes so stressful. You think that you don't have time for anything else, but don't lie to yourself. Keep in touch with your family and friends, because as what happens with medical school is that sometimes it's sort of a delusion, you think time is not moving, and yet your family and friends, life is also happening to them. So always set aside some time in a day to check up on your guardians, to check up on your siblings, to check up on your best friend. You might not have this time every week, but always keep close to home, because sometimes home is the only thing that's going to keep you sane. It's the only thing that's going to keep you going. It's a good constant reminder to why you actually started. Sometimes you might be failing courses. I once reached a point where I was failing so many courses, failing my tests, and I was so overwhelmed and I was panicking. But I just took a break from school and I came home and I got back in my zone. I wrote my exam and I cleared. So you need to have that time. Get enough rest. I can't pull an all-nighter. I won't even lie. I do not study after 24 hours. You will never find me studying at 02 because I've understood myself. So you need to understand who you are and what works best for you. Get enough rest. I discovered that when I used to cram, it used to feel like it's a competition. You know, I have friends who will be like on all these energy drinks. They would stay up the whole night and they would be studying so hard. And then there was me who needs to sleep 8 hours a night. I have made it through med school with 8 hours of rest each night. And I would always feel like, okay, maybe I'm not serious. But then I got to understand myself, know what time your brain is working at its best. For me, my brain works at its best from 05 to 8 hours. Those 3 hours are golden hours for me. I can study something without writing any study notes, and I will understand what I'm studying. So know how your brain works. Get enough rest, drink water, exercise, try to live a healthy life. You don't want to find yourself. I have been in that situation. Some of my classmates have been in that situation where you end up punishing yourself, or in the name of getting a degree, and in the end you are not even performing at your best. You also need to understand that you're only human. Some days you're going to win, some days you're not going to win. But what needs to keep you going is have that drive to keep going. Ask your friends, ask people who are doing better. Okay, what did you use to study for this test? And they tell you, I went through this and this and this. And do that. Ask your seniors. Your seniors are always there. I know some seniors are hard to approach, but some seniors will always be there to guide you. Sometimes you might think your seniors are being overbearing. Maybe you're doing clinicals, what do we call this, a skills course. You're in 4th year and you think, why are these AAs travelers? But trust me, those guys know what they're talking about. We have sat in the same tables, on the same desks that you guys have sat on. We have experienced almost the same lectures that you guys are being taught by. So you really need to understand and get that insight from your seniors. Another thing is having a laid out plan of how your day should go. I am a planner. I started planning in 5th year, and this changed my life because now I could plan my week. I became so serious with planning. My roommates were laughing at me. I was planning my outfits for the week on Sunday, meaning when I wake up on Monday, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to wear because I know Monday I'm wearing this, Tuesday I'm wearing that. But that's a little bit too extreme. So I'm just telling you to plan your week, plan it out. And even as you plan, also leave room for time for you to relax so that you don't get worn out, you don't get burnt out, you don't get frustrated with all the pressure that comes with school. So plan your week. If Monday you're going for study group, plan for that study group. Tuesday you want to go to the library, plan for that trip to the library. If on Wednesday you're going to be watching soccer, put it on your plan. Just try to plan your week ahead. If you're having a DRR, if you're having practicals, plan a week before. On Sunday, I would sit down and I would say, what labs am I having this week? And I will know, okay, this is the lab I'm having in histology. This is the lab I'm having in what? This is the lab I'm having in what? And I would write down, this is from this textbook, pages what to what. This is what we're doing. Sometimes I won't get to read what I actually plan to read, but before the lab, I would know, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is what the lab is requiring from me. I should know A, B, C, and D. And I don't have enough time to study all these things because I have a lot of other things going on. What will I do? I'll use YouTube. I'll just watch a YouTube video quickly on that, and I'll go for that lab and then try to understand. So plan your week, plan your day. When you wake up in the morning, plan your day. Another thing you should always do is study groups. So it depends on who you are. Sometimes study groups help, sometimes study groups don't help. So it's up to you. Are you a person who likes to study in a study group, or are you a person who feels like a study group will slow you down? I will speak from my own experience. I have had seasons in my life where I believe study groups were slowing me down. I wasn't doing well in a study group. And maybe that was I think third year and fourth year. I really didn't um feel I was meant for a study group. But when I crossed over, when I went across the road, that's fifth year to seventh year, the study groups were helping me because there's so many cases, there's so many patients, there's so much to know that, okay, my friend knows this about something, or they heard this properly. So know yourself. Are you a study group person? Are you I'll go through the question bank alone person? Are you I'll study the whole syllabus person? I have friends who I was classmates with, and I was privileged enough to know them, and they don't believe in study groups, and some of them were top in the class. I won't mention names, but yeah, some of them were top in the class and they didn't belong to study groups. So it's just up to you. Figure out who you are and what you can do. Also know where you will study better. If you study better from class, study from class. If you study better from the library, study from the library. If you study better from your room, study from your room. But try your best to at least attempt to study in all these other environments and figure out in which environment you're most comfortable. Don't go to the library if you feel like just because you have to go to the library and sit there for 8 hours dozing, when maybe you could have been more productive if you went to sit outside. Another thing you should really do is, if you don't understand something, you should learn to follow your lecturers. I used to follow my lecturers, sometimes to a point where I used to annoy them. I would follow and ask after class because I was a shy person and I am still a shy person. I would follow and ask, casually, like, you mentioned that, what does that mean? If my lecturer is very busy and they're not the type to really answer questions that students have, I would follow the person who I thought, okay, understood the concept, and I'd ask them, what did you understand by what the lecturer said? I would follow my seniors. I had very good seniors and I would follow them and ask them. Then never lose hope. Some days will be hard, some days will be stressful. We've had cases of people who had mental breakdowns. We've had cases of people who needed psychiatric help because of the pressure that comes, especially in fourth year. There is so much pressure. Time is limited. There is so much to know with little time. But don't lose hope. Always believe in yourself. There's something that a lecturer at UNZA, her name is Mama Chilea. I don't think you guys will teach you. She taught physiology. And one day, one thing she said was, when you are about to go write an exam, you go and the night before and just go shout and say, I don't know which lecturers will teach you. I don't care how you bring the exam, whether you bring it from the east, from the west, whether you twist things around, I'm going to answer. So always have that confidence, because I truly believe that you guys are ready for this. You guys are ready to tackle whatever it is. Anyone who is committed, anyone who is willing to just push through the pressure can make it through med school. I believe you guys are brilliant, and that's why you are where you are today. And so with all this being said, I've just given you a few tips, just general advice on how you should conduct yourself and what you should do in med school. Don't forget, eat healthy, exercise, study, be organized, keep in touch with your friends and family. If you're a person who is very religious, keep in touch with God, pray to God, but always have something that's going to help you with the stress. If you're sporty, go play some volleyball once in a while. Don't let it take over you should focus your eyes on the ball, but the ball shouldn't be the only thing in your life, so that you can at least have time to cool down, time to let your brain rest, and then you'd be able to be more energized to keep going. I wish you all the best. If we ever meet, whether it's in tutorials, whether it's on the ward, wherever we meet, I'm always going to be there for questions. I'm always going to be there if you need advice. And you don't have to call me doctor. I actually don't like being called doctor. Just call me Melissa. And have a great day. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melissa. That was quite insightful. At this point, I'll ask if we have any questions, anything you'd want to clarify from Melissa, as we are waiting for Dr. Simonga, if you're available, or Emmanuel. You can come through with questions, guys. If you've got any questions, I can see Dr. Mick Mwila is here. So we can have questions. Please ask questions.
Oh, okay. So I've seen in the chat someone's asking, can you clear with a C of 17? I've written an exam with a C of 17 and I cleared without a sub, but I cleared. I got a C plus. So yes, you can clear. The thing is just to continue going, keep pushing yourself. Don't let, if you have a bad CA, don't let your bad CA determine your mood for your exams. You need to learn to move past your mistakes, learn from them, grow from them, and start studying harder. That's the secret. You need to keep building yourself so that you can accomplish what you can. Do your best. That's all I can tell you. Always do your best.
So if you have got questions, please feel free. You can type them in the chat box. We'll be able to read them. And then you can also unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so as we're waiting for questions, if any of the doctors who are supposed to speak are available, please feel free to come to Dr. Mick, Dr. Simonga, and Dr. Kayumbu. So at this
Hello.
point, first, yes, please.
Is it afternoon? Am I audible enough? Sorry, Dr. Shimoka, please just help me confirm.
Yes, we can get you.
All right, thank you. Apologies for joining a little bit late. I had challenges with the internet. My name's Emmanuel Kanyumbu. I don't like being called doctor as well, just like Dr. Belisa. I think for most of you, we've interacted. I think some of you at a personal level, some of you in class, and yeah, some of you in about myself too much. And I think on most cases that we've met, I've always talked about the fact that we are colleagues because we're all in the same industry. We are all trying to achieve the same thing, and we're kind of all going the same direction, even though we might have different faculties where we would like to specialize. Quickly, I'll be very brief and straight to the point. Dr. Melissa has highlighted a lot of things from her previous talk. I'll just talk about third and fourth year in brief. Number one, you're now kind of senior students when it comes to undergraduate. In fact, yeah, like the topmost students when it comes to undergraduate. For those of you who are in the 60th year program, okay, probably would understand that, you know, you're still on the growing curve. But for those of you who are in third year, going to fourth year, you're now becoming senior students. And you've experienced second year, you've experienced third year, you've had a feel of how Ridgeway is, what is expected of you, and you've had a feel of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. As you approach to fourth year, one thing I would just talk about is number one, they say that fourth year is a year where you have a fourth year student or a third year student, for those who are in second year, is the most hardworking student at Ridgeway. That's what they say. And I think it's kind of true. Why do they say that? Because of an aspect of what I can refer to as data overload or knowledge overload. Now, in second year, in third year, you spent a lot of time in your labs, you spent a lot of time in your DRR cutting and doing all those dissections. When you come to your third year, when you come to your fourth year, you will spend more time reading, or rather, there's a lot of work to do in terms of reading as opposed to just lab work and going to do your dissections. In fact, dissections end, I think, in the first, second or so month of your academic session. Now, this data overload or this knowledge overload does a few things to you. Number one, you tend to be in so much immense pressure such that people literally crack at fourth year. Now, how do you handle this data overload? How do you handle this knowledge overload? It all goes back to what I usually like saying, knowing yourself. This data overload, yes, it will make you sometimes want to just cram, like you just study to pass an exam, which I did when I was in fourth year. I admit doing it. But now looking back retrospectively, or looking back as a senior, I realized that it was not the best option to do. And the reason is very simple. When you come to fifth year, when you come to seventh year, so you'll be doing courses like pathology, you'll be doing courses like microbiology. So you realize that at fifth and seventh year, you have to constantly going back to the things that you didn't understand at fourth year. You have to go back to your GIT pathology, you have to go to your CVS pathology. And because for me, it was too much for me. And the only thing I wanted to do was pass. And yes, we did pass. But what that did was when we went to higher years, questions are going to be coming from your fourth year. What you're doing, the disease pathologies are going to be coming from your fourth year. So then it creates too much work for you. And also it will be difficult for you to coordinate things when you come to the ward, because when you come to the ward, you will now be expected to integrate things. Now, for you to remember something, you crammed it, so you can't relate it, you can't explain it. And when you come to your fifth year, the learning there is interactive, okay? So you won't sit in a class and then the doctor starts teaching you. You'll probably be on a round and they will just be asking questions, and from there you'll be expected to remember and answer. Although that might not be the case for you people, I don't know how it's going to be done. Probably they'll split you up, but yeah, that's how it's going to be done. Now, for us who were cramming, it meant that when we go to the ward, it's and I can assure you, it's extremely difficult for you to remember those things because you are just cramming things. So my advice is, yes, the pressure is high. Yes, there is data overload. Yes, you're going to have a lot of things to study, but try to understand what you're doing. Try to relate and connect what you're doing. And sometimes that comes from development of interest in what you're doing. It takes me to my other point, which is application. What you're learning, how are you applying it to the clinical world? How are you applying it to what is going to come forward? There was a certain disease, I think, I taught it here on MMRIS, and then it came in my fifth year. Then I'm like, how didn't I, at fourth year, I didn't know it. And then it came on the ward in seventh year, like in pediatrics. So you find that you constantly have to be going back. And then you're wondering, did I learn this at fourth year? Because you were just gunning. So sometimes there is that lack of bridge between what you're doing in fourth year and in seventh year. And sometimes you just feel like cramming is the best. You go through past papers, you understand, and you pass well and good, but it's going to have an effect of you when you come over. So my advice is, as you're going through this data overload, please try to understand. Your books have a lot of clinical correlates. Try to relate whatever you're learning with the words or with the clinical examples that you're going to have. That is going to help. When it comes to fourth year as well, you realize that in fourth year, the questioning is slightly different. Most of them will be scenarios and you'll be expected to integrate what you're learning with the words again. So please, as you're learning, integrate what you're learning with the words. I heard Melissa talking about going through past papers, not to memorize, but to go into the examiner's mind, or in my own view, to relate and integrate data. So questions have this way of making you integrate the data that you've learned and think in a certain clinical way. At the end of the day, guys, we're all training to be clinicians and not academicians. So at third and fourth year, because you're learning too much, so you tend to focus more on the academia and forget the clinical aspect, which is going to come in your exams and which you're going to find in your latter years. So that's it on knowledge overload, which I thought was important. The other thing that I'll just talk about under fourth year as well, in as much as it is bulky, in as much as there's all this data overload, I was talking to the second years on Monday, I always re-emphasize the aspect of know yourself. Usually when we are giving advice as human beings or as people in general, we usually give advice based on our experience, okay? We usually give advice based on what I went through as an individual or what another person went through as an individual. So you have this whole perception thing that alters the way we give advice to people. Sorry about that. So in essence, I'm talking like this because of the experience I went through. What has been your experience? You've had second year, you've had first year. Others have had first, second, and third year. What has been your experience? What works for you? You could be a person that does group discussions, go and do them. You could be a person that doesn't do group discussions. If you don't do group discussions, however, I would still suggest that have 3-4 friends, at least get, have a network of people. Sometimes you just talk about 1 or 2 things that helps your thinking process, because sometimes alone, you might think you know something when in fact you don't. So yes, you're alone, but once in a while, find time to discuss with a friend or just a lecturer. I'm not a lecturer person, but if you're a lecturer person, you can ask the lecturer. If you're not, 1 or 2 people, at least be interconnected with people. Okay, so that is it on association. Please know yourself. If you're a night person, study at night. I have colleagues who never used to come to class that sleep in the day, study at night. And, sometimes because there is this notion that my friend is doing better than me. And the person who is doing better than me, how does he study? He studies the whole night. So I'm also going to study the whole night. This other person is doing better than me. How does he do it? He doesn't come to class, so I'll start missing class. So there is that. It's not something that you're going to say or something that is, inherent, but you just kind of have that inward battle within yourself. So know yourself. If you're a class person, do your classes. If you're a person who doesn't go to class, don't go to class. Make sure that you study. Whichever works for you guys, you're senior students or soon to be senior students at your level. So know yourself, know what works for you. Lastly, but not the least, please remember to interact with your seniors. It's very, very important. By now, you know that we don't know everything, yes, but we might know 1 or 2 things of how things are done. And sometimes that's what matters. So please make sure you interact with your seniors. And despite the pressure, like Melissa said, I'll still use her words, find time for yourself, whether it's family, whether it's food, or relax a little. It's just school. You've been there before, you've had it before, and we're always there. We're always going to be together. We're always going to be interacting together. We're always going to fail sometimes, and you guys will be reminding us certain things because we've not done things in a while. So there's that interaction that has to be there. And you have this, you've come this far, you will make it definitely. So all the best as you head forward. Yes, there's a lot of pressure. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna, cover that up. There's data overload, but it is manageable. How do you do that? You have to know yourself. You'd have to know what works for you, and you apply yourself accordingly. most importantly, you might be a person who does discussions, you might be a person who is a single or a loner, but find time to interact with either your seniors or just people around you. Ask them here and there. And please, please, my plea, a mistake that I made, this one is for my mistake. I had a hard time in 5th year because, for example, you're going to have different rotations. When you go to this rotation, because we didn't understand things at 4th year, you now have to go back to 4th year, understand things at 4th year level, and then start studying 5th year stuff. So that is very, very stressful, and it will make you have a hard challenge to fit into the clinical world. So please make sure you understand, despite the data overload, try to understand what you're doing, and everything is important, including your microbiology, which sometimes people tend to look down on. Anyway, I think I've overshot on my time. Apologies, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. So if I've got any questions following what Emmanuel has talked about, please come through. You can type in the chat box. Frank, please help us read the questions that are in the chat box. I'm unable to see the questions. Or you can as well just unmute yourself and bring forth your questions. Okay, so as we're waiting for
Chike should be helping us with the questions in the chat box.
All right. Okay, there were people that asked questions to Dr. Melissa before she left.
Okay,
So maybe I can try and answer those questions that were asked. There was one person who was asking about going out to drink once in a while. I'm not sure if Dr. Melissa is around, but I'll try and answer that one. It's very important. If you're a church person, kabi or kapepe. If you're someone who drinks on a Friday, take 1 or 2 bottles, relax. Whatever it is that you do for fun, I think I heard Melissa say something about if you're a sports person, go and play your soccer, enjoy yourself once in a while. But it all goes down to, I think we're speaking the same language. Know yourself, know what works for you, know what's important for you, and know when to do things. Do things in moderation. There's another person who was asking, how do you know that you need to study for a supplementary exam? I think that one again goes back to what I had said, know yourself. You were writing that exam. And for me, just the thought that you are thinking you could have a supplementary exam, that in itself is an indicator that you might have a supplementary exam. And there's usually just a week between the time your results come out and the time you'll be expected to write a supplementary exam. That means that if you've not been studying for that course, it will be very difficult to write that supplementary exam. And I can assure you, supplementary exams are way, way tougher than your normal exams. That is a fact. It's a well-known fact. So make sure that if you have a doubt in a certain course, it doesn't harm you to study it during the vacation and to start now. If anything, that information will be valuable to your next academic year, so you don't lose anything. In case you pass, well and good, the information still sticks with you. If you don't make it, you have limited time, guys. Between your results and supplementary, you have to do registration. You have to go to the dean and appeal for those of you who might have had a D and not a D+. So there's a lot that happens in that 1 week. And then you're also stressed. You're really, really stressed. You're seeing people putting statuses, hey, want to go clear and stuff. And then so there's all that nonsense that is occurring, and it's important that you do that. I think that's it on the questions, unless there's any other question that I've missed. But I think those are the questions that are there.
There's a question you missed. It was saying, considering how disorganized this academic year was, making planning rather difficult, how do you deal with that?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Okay, the question reads, considering how difficult this academic year was and it made planning rather difficult, how do you deal with that? I think that goes to the point where Dr. Melissa was saying you have to plan out your week.
Okay. So again, she's not here, so I'll try and answer based on what she was teaching. And the best way I could answer that question is, I was telling you earlier on to say we're here, and usually we give experiences, we give advice based on the experiences that we've gone through. So, and why do we do that? Because history repeats itself. That's the reason we learn history. History normally repeats itself. Now, based on her experience, it was good that she makes a timetable and all that stuff. I used to do that as well. Of course, I never used to plan my whole week, but at least I would plan my day. Because of the data overload that you have in fourth year, honestly speaking, it's important that if you can't plan your week, again, know yourself. If you can't plan the week, at least plan the day, because you will be going for a month. You're just reading 2 courses because there are tests in those things and there's so much work to do. So if you can't plan your week, plan your day, but at least have a plan. At least you should have a plan. You might not do it exactly the way Melissa did it. Melissa was planning for a week. I used to plan for a day. I would plan my 24 hours, how I'm going to handle it, which topics I'm going to study that day. So we all have different ways of getting the job done, guys. The most important thing is know yourself. If you can plan for 2 hours and say, in these 2 hours, I'm going to study this, that's good for you. Use that. If you're someone who can plan a month, plan the whole month. If you're someone who can plan a week, plan the week. And if you're like me, who can plan the day, plan the day. If you're like another person out there who can only plan for the 3 hours that he has to study, plan for that. But have a plan and be a little bit organized on how things are going. The other question reads, how do they moderate? If I'm not mistaken. Moderation, I wouldn't want to go much into it because this is an administrative issue. But normally, how they do it is, for example, I'll give an example of anatomy which you've all taken before. I'm assuming we've all taken anatomy or done anatomy. So in anatomy, you have your histology, you have your DRA, and you have your theory exam. When they say moderation, normally they don't add marks to people. They never give you free marks. There's no such thing as free marks. You've heard of the saying, there's no free meal in this world. That's so it's the same thing in academia. Normally they don't give you free marks. How do they moderate? So for example, you wrote the exam and let's say too many people failed. So how they are going to moderate is, okay, maybe let's lower the marks for the exam and let's give more results to, for example, test 1. Okay, so there's that moderation that occurs. So for example, you have a CA, which is out of 40, and then you have test 1, test 2, and let's say histology and growth. So if too many people fail test 1, they'll say, okay, let's give test 1 lesser marks, and let's give test 2 more marks and growth more marks. That way they try and balance up people, but they don't add marks. So that's how they do moderate. I don't know if I've missed any other question.
There was a question.
Too much time. Dr. Frank is supposed to come in, but anyway, maybe I can answer the last question, maybe in 2 minutes.
Okay, there are a lot of questions. I don't know which one to pick as your last question, but
maybe you can take 2 and then I can answer them combinedly.
Okay, so someone was asking to say, what if you don't have anyone willing to join a study group? What do you do? And
okay,
yes, and then the other one is asking about, it says, personally, I have a problem with making a study timetable. Last year, we could have had tests, we could have tests here and there, and we couldn't even have a class timetable. So how do you make a timetable and how do you make sure you follow it regardless of the disturbances here and there?
Okay, the third question, maybe let me take 3 or 4 questions at the same time, and then I'll allow Dr. Frank. I've really chewed too much time, so I'll try and answer them very, very fast. Maybe let me take the other 2 or 3 so that they're like 4. Maybe I can answer 4.
Okay, so the other one says, any study tips or techniques? And the other one is asking, what's DTM degree and how do you get it?
Okay. Okay, so maybe the last question, Dr. Frank is coming in with courses, so he'll be able to handle that. Maybe that question will be answered after him. He's listening now, so I'm sure he's taken note of that one. When it comes to tips on how to study again, Dr. Frank is coming in with topics. The courses for each course that you're going to have and how to course. The other question which talked about there was a confusion in terms of timetable. Please don't get used to abnormal things, okay? Last year was a mess, or this year has been a mess. Not really that I was part of administration. So there was a challenge. There was that whole merging of 7th year and 60th year. And there was this whole confusion that happened, especially in the first 6 months or so, up to somewhere June. I think that's when things stabilized here and there in most programs. Yeah, unlikely to find that at 4th year. So my advice is that situation was kind of temporary, and I don't think it will be there next year. If it will be there, I don't think it will anyway. I hope it's not going to be there. But again, if it's there, you just have to adjust to the current situation and try and still align yourself with what has to be done. Because you might get too busy just studying, and missing out on vital activities. So I don't expect that problem to be there next year, most likely, unless otherwise. This is 1755, guys. I know there's that other question I was supposed to answer. I'll answer it in the chat. Let me allow Dr. Frank to come through, or the moderator to take over.
All right, thank you so much. So we'll try to be a bit faster this time. We're running out of time. So at this point, I'll ask our immediate seniors to just give us some piece of advice just for 5 minutes. Immediately the one is done, the other one should come in and start, so that we have Chipo. Are you available, Chipo?
Hello.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, hi. Dennis Kahota here.
Yes, Dennis, you
Thank
can
you very
start,
much.
then Derek, you can follow.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I'll be quick because I'm also rushing for another meeting. Yeah. So the thing with 4th year is it's a very interesting year. Personally, myself, I enjoyed my 4th year very much. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. If I was asked to pick between 3rd year and 4th year, I'll still go back to 4th year because I really enjoyed it. So success in 4th year, I think for me started when I started early, and I started early with MMRS, their lessons, and I took things very personal and very serious because my seniors used to tell me that 4th year is really tough. So from day one, when I just joined MMRS, I took things really serious and I really benefited, I really utilized good high-yield notes from them. I love the way the Google Drive was organized, the lectures and everything else. So it was a fun experience for me, So I think one key takeaway point for everyone here is to start early, When MMRS classes start with them, learn with them, do everything that they tell you, and you greatly benefit. So starting early is key, when they start those free classes that they'll start very soon, start with them and put in work, put in a lot of hard work. 4th year can be messy, if you try to take it very easy, very lightly, taking things for granted. But if you take it personal and just commit to it with your whole heart, you'll surely enjoy. So the high-yield notes are very, very good. I really benefited from them. They were very, very good. It's priceless knowledge I gained from them. I love the way the Google Drive was organized. And another thing, test ones are usually very easy. So if you can charge test ones because the subsequent tests, the tests after test ones are usually tough. They are usually tougher than test one. So a student who charge test ones has a very good advantage and good opportunity of reducing the pressure. So if you can charge test ones, especially pathology is very, very easy. Test one, if you can charge test one, you're very good. Micro, the same thing. Test ones, very, very important. If you can charge your test ones, if you get above 70, that can be very good. Okay. So consistency, very important. If you're consistent in the time of waking up, for me personally, I used to wake up at 4 every day. It became like a routine. It became so used to it. So consistency is very key, you know. Then your assignments and labs and research. So the thing, what I noticed is that a lot of people, when they're given an assignment, they'll try to do it like a day before the day of submission. I think that wastes time. Start your assignments very early. Assignments, do research. Don't just Google things. There are recommended books that the lecturers will give you. So if you're given an assignment, especially neuroscience, a lot of people failed the neuroscience test we had because they didn't take the assignments work very seriously. Most of them were just Googling the same things, and most of them were getting my 2 out of 5, but for us who did research, at least we got my 8.5, my 9 out of 10. So it's very important. Labs, the same thing. Start doing your labs early. At least if you're going to start a lab, do it like, for example, if you do a lab today, try at least to start doing it tomorrow. At least be done with the introduction, even the same day. If you can do it on the same day, well and good. It gives you an upper hand for more time to study, So everything has been said, basically hard work, discipline, consistency. Also have time for fun, have time for fun, church, relax with friends, watch movies, weekends, relax, guys. Don't stress yourself. School is important, but have time for fun, Go out, relax, and enjoy. So having said that, I would like to thank MMRS for everything they've taught me, the classes I attended, and I managed, to the grace of God, I managed to clear all the tests. We had about 15 tests in 4th year, and I managed to clear all of them, So it's very possible. Just trust the process, put in work, do your best, have fun, do your work early, and success is guaranteed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dennis. So now, Dorica, you can come through. Then after Dorica, we'll read the questions. Dorica, please.
Dorica, let's manana.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dorica Masaku. I'm Publicity Secretary for Unzamedza, and I was also a student of MMRS. So right now, I'm currently in my 4th year. God willing, I'm going into my 5th year next year. So as your immediate senior, I would just like to give you some tips on how to go about 4th year, or the tips that worked for me. So what helped me the most was, I think, how organized I was. What do I mean when I say organized? So 4th year is very different from 3rd year. The way it actually starts in a very slow way. Okay, when you're done with your DR for a month, it becomes very slow, and you even be feeling like, 4th year is easy. I think my 4th year will be better than 3rd year. But then now when all the lecturers start coming in, teaching their own things, teaching a lot of things, it becomes very bulky and complicated. So especially neuroscience and pathology, when these lectures start, it becomes very hard to even know what you've learned and what you haven't learned. You'll just be confused. Every time you go for class, you'll be like, wait, what are we learning exactly? You'll be looking at the course schedule, it's not even making sense. So when I say be organized, I mean, whenever you go for classes, okay, first of all, I advise you to go for all the classes if you can. If you can manage, attend every class, especially neuroscience and pathology, okay, everything. basically, because some lecturers, they don't even use slides. So when they come there, they just teach, and then you'll be there waiting for the slides. Class reps were waiting for the slides, but then there'll be no slides because they just used word of mouth the whole time. And some other lecturers, they teach, they use slides, but they don't even send their slides. So I feel like going for classes is the best thing that you can do, because at least you'll be well aware of what's going on. It won't be nice you have a test and then you end up not passing that test because you didn't know what you learned, you didn't know what you were supposed to study. It's better you're on top of things. You, if possible, like find a book that you can be writing all the topics down if you can. My roommate used to laugh at me, Derek, I always like, you're always writing down topics. Then I realized that, no, this is what's helping me, because if you just wait and say, no, I think I'll know what we've learned, I think I know what we haven't learned, you'll be very confused. So it's better you have a place where you'll be ticking, okay, we've learned this today, you tick, you even go through it so that you're always on top of your game. So don't rely on the class reps to tell you everything, because 90% of the time they'll be stressed, and more stressed than you actually. So they might even delay to tell you, oh guys, these are the topics that are coming. These are the topics that won't come. And some lecturers are very good. They even tell you that, okay, I'm only bringing this topic and this topic, this other topic won't come. So if you're always writing down everything that they say, going for classes, and making sure that you're even looking at the course outline and comparing with what you're learning, you won't be confused, because it gets very, very confusing. And I think most people had that issue where they're like, class reps, what have we learned? But I think for me, I always used to know, and I would even help people by saying, guys, these are the topics that we've learned according to what I've ticked. So if you can do that, that's my topmost advice. And then, and also, I also advise you, because fourth year is very bulky, more than third year. So you should just try your best not to lag behind. If you've learned something, try your best to go through something. If you can't go through much, go through even just like a YouTube video, so that at least you have an idea on it before you move on. Because the way you felt like anatomy and physiology are bulky, this time all the courses are bulky. So you'll be learning so many things. You'll just be tired of learning. We keep learning. But if you don't lag behind, it will be easy for you. And find a way to motivate yourself and encourage yourself to study. For me, I bought myself to my nice books in fourth year, because I was saying, I didn't like studying very much in third year. So I said, let me find a way to motivate myself. I bought myself to my cute books and nice pens, so that at least I should just be feeling some nice when studying. So if you can do something for yourself just to say, let me make studying a little bit more fun, it can help you, because fourth year you'll be studying way more than third year. For me, that's fourth year is when I started going to the lib. I never even used to go to the lib in third year, but in fourth year, that's when I started. So find a way to motivate yourself and encourage yourself. And you should, during this time that you have before we open, I think you should just try and think and reflect on how your third year or second year, for those who are in second year, think about it. How did my year go? What were my mistakes? What can I do better next year? Try to strategize. Think of a better strategy that you can come up with next year. If you've never been going to the lib, maybe you can start. If you try it out, you can try these things. If you've never done study groups, you can try to join one. I saw a question in the chat box saying, what if no one is willing to join? I believe there's always someone willing to join. You can just ask even in the group, guys, who wants to form a study group with me, or who doesn't have a study group? You make one fast and start early. If you made a study group, you start from the beginning. Even if topics are just seeming easy at first, just try to find questions on them and make sure you go through as a group, and it will really help you, because something that your friend knows might be something that you don't know. So even just them saying something in passing can really help you, and it goes a long way. So yeah, and I also advise you to, as I said, for the course schedules, you'll be seeing course outlines there. Try to be referring to them every day if you can. Okay, what have we learned? Okay, this. Yeah, if you can even print them out so that you stick them on your wall, you tick them, because the topics, there are a lot. I think in anatomy we had 50 something topics, but in pathology, I think there are more than that. So if you can really just know what topic you're on, you'll be at an advantage. And I think the last thing that I want to say is also try to prioritize the right things. There'll be times where you'll be having maybe more than one test in a week. So if you know that maybe pathology is the hardest for you, you study pathology more, because it's better you balance up, because
it won't be nice. Example, you get an 80% in this course, and then this other course you're getting like 30%. It's better you balance up. If you can get 60 or 60 and above, you're safe. Just try to balance up where you can. If you know this topic is very hard for you, study it more. Yeah, and then I know last year, like the way we had biochem, which was online, we also have pharmacology, which will be online. So what I can say is don't derelict. Pharmacology is online, and you feel like, oh no, I'll be with my formation, but it gets really hard when it's exam time, because now it will be physical and you're on your own. So please try to go through pharmacology even every day if you can, so that those things just stick into your head, so that when it's time for the exam and now you're on your own for real, you won't black. At least you have something. And always try to consult your seniors. Yeah, and I also want to add on what Dennis said about MMRS. MMRS gives free tuitions for about a month. So this holiday, you'll be able to start with them, and they'll give you a really strong foundation. Me, when I started fourth year, when we started classes, I was even able to answer questions. I was able to raise my hand because I already learned those things with MMRS. And after some time, I realized that, okay, this thing is working for me. So I continued with them up to the end. So I also encourage you guys to at least start the free tuition, see for yourself. If you don't believe, then later on you realize, okay, I think this is working for me. Tuitions is not just for people who are struggling. It just keeps you on your toes, keeps you on your A game. If you miss out on a concept in class, at least you can find it in the tuitions, and they record their videos, so you'll be able to have these things the whole year. So to summarize, I just want to say, stay organized, motivate yourself, and find a good strategy that works for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Derek. I hope we're all following. I can see there are a number of questions in the chat box. Please, Chike, help us to read the questions, and then our colleagues will help address them.
Okay, so there's only one question. Okay, people keep asking about the courses. So I think maybe these are people that weren't there in the beginning, at the beginning of the meeting, where you stated that Dr. Frank will come through and run us through the courses and everything. So there's a question that says, how vital are the topics we didn't do in physiology and anatomy? Can we study them on our own now, or it's okay just like this?
Okay, I think Dr. Frank will come and handle those ones.
Right. That's all the questions have been asked.
All right, Chipo Mbanga, are you here? Chipo? Okay, I assume she's not. At this point, I'll call Dr. Frank to come through and take us through the courses and everything we need to know about that. Frank.
Oh, yes, guys. Sorry, I'm a bit disoriented because I was talking to someone, then I just came in. Right, so I think I'm known by now. You know who Frank is. This is Frank. And I don't think there's anyone in this meeting who doesn't know Frank. Okay, so when we were interacting with you some months ago, I never had the doctor title, despite you guys calling us doctor, but now we have that doctor title officially. We are now doctors. Okay. Then someone was asking about what DTM stands for, and I'm sure they've noticed that almost everyone here, they have DTM as one of the qualifications. So DTM stands for Diploma in Teaching Methodology. Okay. So I did Diploma in Teaching Methodology at the University of Zambia in School of Education, because that's where they offer those, right? And then the BS, you know, these other things. So that's what DTM stands for. So in a case where I want to do this one, it's very simple. For those that are made twos, you are disadvantaged because you don't have a degree. You don't have the Bachelor of Science in Human Biology. Because for you to do this course, you need a degree, and then you have to use the degree to apply for this particular course. So it means you can only do it, you guys who are using a new curriculum, you can only do it towards the end as you become mate 6 somewhere there, because you are guaranteed that you have your MBCHB. But for those that are using the old curriculum, once they graduate, they have their Bachelor of Science in Human Biology. They can actually go back to school, do any program they want to. They can go for masters if they have money. For example, Dhruv started masters when we were in year 5, and he finished this year because he had money. So those that are in third year, once you get your Bachelor of Science in Human Biology, you can actually go for other programs, whatever you want, and actually do them. I hope I've answered that question that was talking about DTM. Just give me 30 seconds.
Hello, Frank, are you still there?
I'm here. I just went out for a bit. Someone came through the door that side. All right, so I'm going to run you through the courses. This is the last part of the program. Okay, we're going to talk about the courses you expect in year 3, year 4, which is your year 4, the year 4 in using the old curriculum. So I'll start this presentation like how I started with the Med 2s, because I realized that many people don't know the difference between these two. So aside from the immediate seniors and the Med 3s and 2s who are part of the orientation for the Med 2s, I want students to help me out with the question that is on your screen. What is the difference between MBCHB and BBA? So you can unmute yourself and try to answer, or maybe you can type your answer in the comment section, and then Chike will help us out with the answers that will be typed in the comment section. Anyone who knows the difference between these two? You guys are currently doing this program. I'm assuming you are doing MBCHB, okay, but there is also MBBS. So what are the differences between these two? Anyone? Guys, it's a very simple question. It's not even academic. It's a general question. Hello? MBBS.
Someone has responded in the chat box. You can read for us.
Okay. Okay, so I've read the response from the chat box. He's saying MBBS Nyako India. Okay, so MBBS Nyako India, and then MBCHB is the one for us here in Africa. Anyone else with a different answer? Thank you very much for that answer. Anyone else?
There is someone in the chat box that's saying they are essentially the same.
Okay, they're essentially the same. Okay, if they're essentially the same, what does MBBS stands for and what does MBCHB stand for? I mean, they're different. I mean, the only thing, okay, they have, both of them are B's, and then there's an M, but there's a CH in there, and then this other one doesn't have a CH. So what do these letters stand for?
Isn't it that one is in Latin and the other one is in English?
Okay, who is that speaker? I can't get the person who was talking.
It's Prince.
Which one is in Latin and which one is in English?
MBCHB is in Latin and MBBS is in English.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would say you're 80% correct, okay? So MBCHB, MBBS, there is no difference between the two. The only difference is what he said. The other one has a word that is in Greek, and then the other one, they use English. Very important for us to understand this, especially the fact that we're doing medicine, okay? At CBE, when the guys who are doing medicine at CBE, when they graduate, their medical degree has MBBS. The UNZA one, as well as the Apex one, when we graduate, we have the MBCHB, and the difference is what our colleague has said, okay? The difference is that MBBS stands for Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, and of course, I think I saw a comment section to say that UK, something like that. Yes, it derived from UK. So all UK-based countries, usually they use MBBS. Okay, so that's what you get to find at CBU and other schools within Zambia. Then MBCHB stands for Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Chirurgia. Now, chirurgia is surgery in Greek. Okay, very important for you to understand. Now, because of the fact that MBBS and MBCHB are the same, it means the courses we take at UNZA should be the same that are taken at Apex, University of Levi Mwanawasa University, and CBU. All of us will end up taking the same courses because we are doing the same program. And that is the reason why it's easy for us to find videos, tutorial YouTube videos for this particular course, because worldwide, really, we take the same courses. It's standard like that, all right? So what differs really is how they get to deliver their content. The way UNZA delivers the courses is different from how CBU does it. So that is the only difference. Okay, so let's dive into MBCHB quickly, and then I'll stick around with to the, is it third year, fourth year courses? Okay, so this is the program we've been doing. We started from year one. Okay, we've done our chemistry, we've done our biology, we've done our mathematics, and we did our physics. We went into year two, the third years did their those courses, and you guys ended up going straight to the courses you are doing last year. Okay, when it comes to MBCHB, these are the aims. At the end of the MBCHB, we are all required to have these skills. But for you guys, you are still on point number 8. In fact, even these other points from 1 to 7, you are yet to get them. You are still on point number 8. You are trying to understand basic clinical sciences. And I think that is where Dr. Kanyumbu, that is what Dr. Kanyumbu was emphasizing. Make sure you understand your basic sciences, because when you go to your clinical areas, you come back to the very same basic sciences. So the only thing you're still doing right now is trying to understand the basic clinical sciences. So how is this MBCHB structured? I'm trying to go through this because I realize that many people don't know how MBCHB is structured. We know that it is divided into 2. We have the preclinical years and clinical years. Dorica and Dennis, now they are done with 4th year. They are going into clinical years. You guys are still fighting with preclinical years. So your year 1, your year 2, and your year 3 were still preclinical years, okay? Year 4, year 5, and year 6, using the new curriculum, these are what we call as the clinical years. And then 5 to 7, using the old curriculum, that's what we call as the clinical years, okay? So the courses for the preclinical years, these are the courses you're from doing, okay? I won't dive into the details. These are the courses you will be doing, okay? And take note that the courses you are doing here, for you to understand these courses you'll be doing, there is need of you to understand the courses you have been doing throughout this academic year, okay? So the courses you'll be doing as a 3rd year using a new curriculum, or as a 4th year using a new curriculum, are neurosciences, pharmacology, pathology, medical microbiology, clinical methods and skills. Now I said that the courses, whether you're at Apex or you're at CBU, all the courses are the same as long as you're doing MBCHB or MBBS. But clinical methods and skills is only offered at UNZA. And because of that, you see the difference between other students from other schools and the UNZA students because of the very same course called clinical methods and skills. This clinical methods and skills course, it prepares students for what they will find when they head into clinical years. So I'll talk about it more I'll talk about the details concerning this course when I start going through course by course, and the recommended books and everything. Okay. And of course, see, another course that will come back again is CBE. Okay. Now the curriculum has changed with the third years. For them, they won't be doing CBE. The fourth years, you are still going to do CBE, which is not graded. For the third years, it has changed. The name has changed. It's called research methods, and it's a half course instead. So that they will be learning it the way other half courses are taught at Ridgeway campus. For them, it will be graded, meaning they'll be making points like you have a C, you have a whatever. But for the fourth years, it won't be graded. It's CBE, you know. Either you don't really fail anyway. They'll just give you an S. Okay. So these are the third year, fourth year courses. Now, when you head, it's important. I know we have to concentrate on these courses. I'll talk about them in detail, but we need to be aware of the courses we get to find as we head into the future academic years. So when you go now to clinical years, like Dennis and Dorica, okay, when you become fourth years and fifth years, at this point you've crossed the road. We usually say we've crossed the road because someone has their mic unmuted. Can you mute yourselves? Whoever that person is. Okay, thank you very much. So once you pass your fifth year and your sixth year, when you go to your, I think I made a mistake here. Oh yeah, sorry. Once you pass your third year and fourth year courses, when you go to clinical years, these are the courses you get to find. So at year 4, year 5, what are you going to find? You're going to find these courses. Now, the interesting thing about these courses is that they are based off the departments you get to find at UTH. So UTH, you have surgery department, you have internal medicine department, you have pediatric department, and then you have obstetric and gynecology department, okay? Each of these departments have specialized doctors. So you have doctors that are specialized in surgery, doctors that are specialized in internal medicine, doctors that are specialized in peds, just like that. So you will just be rotating, and these are the courses you are going to find at year 4, year 5. The details are not meant for you. They are meant to be for those that will be fifth year. But it's important to have an idea of what you should expect as you proceed with your studies. At year 5, year 6, these are the courses you will find. You can see internal medicine and surgery is still there even at year 5, year 6. Okay. Here we call the surgery 1, internal medicine 1. Here they're called internal medicine 2, surgery 2. Okay. Another course has been introduced, which is psychiatry and mental health. That behavioral sciences you are learning as Med 2s and Med 3s. You learned about personalities. You learned about a lot of things in the behavioral sciences. Those were normal things. Remember, psychology is studying the mind, right? Which is normal in behavioral sciences. But by normal, I mean it is not diseased. But now when there's a disease in the mind, you call it psychiatry. So everything you learned in behavioral sciences is coming back at year 5, year 6 under psychiatry. Okay. Then community medicine really is like the very same CB keeps on advancing as you go, and then here to become a rotation to be the same thing, going in fields and the like. Forensic medicine is like pathology, but I'll talk about pathology later. And then at year 7 and year 6, these are the same courses you'll find. You can see they are not really changing. And by the way, your anatomy, the reason why you are learning your anatomy is because of your surgery. And you can see that surgery is appearing 3 times at year 4, 5, and 6. And that is the reason why the whole degree is called Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. These 2 courses are the ones that picked up the name, surgery and internal medicine. Okay. Quickly, let me talk about course coding. You already know, I'm not going to spend that much time. You know by now to say that when a course ends with a 0, it's a full course. Okay. For those of you who are using a new curriculum, the Med 2 is going to Med 3s. Okay. Any course that has a 9, it's a project course. I'm emphasizing on this because it will help you in terms of studying as well. Okay. A course that ends with a 4, it's a project course as well. That's for the guys using old curriculum. Any course that has a 5, it's a half course. Okay. Why am I emphasizing on this? I want you to pay attention to the courses you'll be doing next year. You can see that neuroscience is ending with a 0, pharmacology is 0, pathology is 0, micro 0 this time around. So you have 4 courses that are full courses. And because they are full courses, they're as bulky as they were, more bulky as compared to anatomy. In fact, I wanted to compare it with anatomy, but I've realized that these courses are actually way bulkier than anatomy. And that means there is we have to put in a lot of effort where these courses are concerned. The only course that is a half course at year 5 is the clinical methods and skills, which is DME 4115. Okay. That's for the 4th years. Okay. Then for the ones that will be 3rd years, these are your course code. You can see even for you guys, the courses are still ending with a 0, starting with a 3 because you're 3rd years. The only difference between a 4th year and a 3rd year is the community-based education and scientific methods. Okay. For the 4th years, it's still CBE. But for you guys, you can see you have an additional half course. So you have 2 half courses: research methods and clinical methods. While for the 4th years, they only have clinical methods as a half course. So they CBE to be the way it was done this year. That's how they will do it next year as well. For you, it is the research method. So you'll be learning. Obviously, there'll be classes and the like. Okay. Any questions so far? Because now the next thing I'll dive into the courses one by one, talk about the recommended books and how you go about it, them. Any questions so far? Do we have any questions? I can proceed?
No.
Okay. So I will now move on. So make sure you memorize the course codes for 4th years, memorize your course codes. 3rd years, be sure that at least by next year, you should be able to know these course codes, okay? So I'll now move on and I'll start talking about these courses one by one, how you go about them, what they are comprised of and the like. So I'll start with neurosciences, okay? So neurosciences, by the way, this is what I've forgotten to mention. At 4th year, the departments that predominates at year 4 are 2 departments: physiological science, departments of physiological sciences, and the department of pathology and microbiology. PGY is Department of Physiological Sciences. PTM is Department of Pathology and Microbiology. So you can see 2 courses are coming from one department: pathology and medical microbiology, even for the 4th years. PGY, neurosciences and pharmacology. So these courses are coming from the very same department where your biochemistry came from, where your physiology came from. Okay, and because of that, it means most likely the people that were teaching you the courses in physiology are most likely to pop up in these courses as well. The people that were teaching you immunology and the microbiology are most likely to pop up in PTM courses, but there are more lecturers as compared to the ones you saw. So let's start with neurosciences, okay? So by definition, neurosciences is basically the study of the nervous system. Okay, when we start classes, I'll dive into the details of what neuroscience is. So take note, it's called neurosciences, okay? Meaning it has more than one disciplinaries, okay? Meaning it's a multidisciplinary course, okay? So there is physiology in it, there is anatomy in it. Those guys that are doing computer science at main campus, they actually do neuroscience, but for them, they even add in computer science as well as mathematics. But here, for those of us who are doing medicine, computer science and mathematics is really not that important. It's not really that important. It's important for those guys doing computer science because they try to mimic how the brain works so that they can come up with these computers. So for us, the disciplinaries that are very important in neuroscience is physiology, anatomy, and pharmacology. So in short, neuroscience is divided in 3 parts. There is neurophysiology, okay, which is a branch of physiology, the very same physiology you did, but it just deals with functions of the nervous system. Neuroanatomy, the anatomy of the nervous system. Then neuropharmacology is how drugs interact with the nervous system. So even in class, this is how you'll be learning your neuroscience. The people that will be coming to teach you the neurophysiology will be those that did physiological sciences from the physiological department. Meaning, okay, most of the doctors you don't know them, but yeah, people from the physiological department, and includes myself and Dr. Kanyum, okay, will be coming in. The neuroanatomy, of course, Mukape is coming back. If you thought that Mukapata was in Zampez, Abwell, and he's the one who teaches a lot of topics in neuroanatomy. Okay. Then you have neuropharmacology. Again, remember you have a course called neuropharmacology, right? There's a course called neuropharmacology there. The people that will be teaching you this pharmacology here are the very same people that will be coming to teach you the neuropharmacology. So this is how neuropharmacology or neuroscience is divided. It's divided into 3, and each section has different lecturers that will be coming in to be to teach you the very same components. Okay, prerequisites. You know what prerequisites are, right? Something you need for you to start up that thing you want to start. So for someone to be able to study neuroscience, these are the things needed. Okay, you should go back to your nerve physiology we did in your PGY 3010 2310. Very important. Okay, the gross anatomy and histology of the nervous system, that nervous system you did in your anatomy will be required. At least those basics you did learn. Another thing that is needed for you to understand neuroscience is head and neck anatomy. But you never did head and neck at 3rd year or 4th year. I know you might say because maybe we never finished, that's why we never did it. No, it's not done at year 3 or year 2. Okay. And then you also need basic understanding of pharmacology. And now this, remember, pharmacology will be doing it in the very same year 4. So the very same basics you'll be doing in that course called pharmacology, you need it to understand the neuropharmacology aspect of neuroscience. Okay. Now, because one of the prerequisites is head and neck, but head and neck hasn't been done. This is the first thing you are going to start with next year when schools open. Before you even start your neuroscience, so neuroscience will actually start 2 months later. The first 2 months, 1 month, 2 months is actually going to be head and neck. The very same anatomy. Now, the difference is that the anatomy you are doing at year 2, year 3 was divided into 3: histology, autopsy, and then you had your embryology. For the head and neck, the assumption, remember, you already did pharyngeal apparatus. That pharyngeal apparatus topic in embryology, it was preparing you for your head and neck. So questions can actually pop up in your 4th year concerning the very same topic, pharyngeal apparatus in embryology. Okay, so at year 4, head and neck, the only thing you're going to be doing is DR. It will just be DR, DR, DR. And you know that when you're doing DR, it is never taught in class. You might be having some tutorials here and there, but they won't be coming in class to say, today we are doing the blood supply of the head and neck. No, they won't be doing that. They will pick some of the topics, and then you'll be having tutorials around 17 hours. I doubt if those tutorials will even be there because of the numbers now, but ideally that's how it was. Okay. So for those of you that will be on MMRs, I want to emphasize on this. If you be reading those high yield notes when you just start, we just be reading those high yield notes where I'm sure those that have been on MMRs have seen the importance of reading those high yield notes. Okay, stick to those high yield notes, then you'll be okay with it the neck when the classes start. Okay, so now let's talk about the recommended books for head and neck. Remember, this is head and neck. We are yet to talk about neuroscience, but neuroscience, you need to do your head and neck before you start your neuroscience. So we were going back to, in terms of books, the very same books we are using at year 3, year 2, year 3, year 2, right? Yeah, are the very same books you'll be using, except Chaurezia this time around is volume 3. Remember, volume 1 was the upper limb, volume 2, lower, volume 3 is head and neck. Volume 4 obviously is the brain, okay? So these are the books, recommended books. I mean, despite putting Grey's Anatomy for students, for others probably that might have enjoyed it, I still strongly advise you, I'm advising you guys to buy Chaurezia Volume 3, because those hard MCQ questions that come from anatomy department by Mukape, they are usually answered, in a case you won't be on MMRS, they are usually answered when you have Chaurezia. Okay, most of the things that come under gross anatomy can be answered if you have Chaurezia. Grey's Anatomy is for stories, and that is the reason why I never liked it that much. So these are the recommended books. Okay, there is no need of for you to buy these books, like buying them as hard copy. Just have them as soft copies, because remember, this course will just be for a month or two, and then you'll be done. Then you'll continue with neuroscience. Okay, of course, head and neck is autopsy, meaning there's DR. So you still need your atlases. So don't sell them to your juniors yet. Keep them until, even neuroscience, you might need to use them anyway. But yeah, as you are planning, if you're planning to sell these atlases, keep them at least until after 2 months when you're done with your head and neck. Okay. Of course, the Kama famous book, flashcards. Okay, people have been gunning this Kama book. You still need to be gunning it for your head and neck, because remember, you are going to have your head and neck practicals. The very same DR, it will come in, and obviously it will be projected again, because the number will still be a lot. So there will still be projection. The way you did your DR is the same way you're going to do it even next year. Okay, remember, this head and neck is anatomy, and the people that will be conducting it are the people from the anatomy department. Okay. Of course, because it's autopsy, DR, Zuckerman is needed. But again, you have your demonstrators that will be dissecting for you. So this book is useless for students now. It was useful when we were the ones dissecting, but we have demonstrators dissecting for you. You just go and see structures. So stick to the theory books and go and see the actual structures when you go into your sessions for DR. Okay. Any questions? Are we good? I'm now moving on to neuroscience. Remember, everything I'm talking about here is it's linked, right? Head and neck is needed to be done before you do a neuroscience. So now for neuroscience, which you now start after 2 months, okay? Like I said, it's divided into 3. There is neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, neuropharmacology. Neuroanatomy, the recommended book, again, I think I mentioned, I'm from mentioning Chaurezia, okay? That Chaurezia I mentioned here was volume 3 for head and neck. There is Chaurezia volume 4, that is for the nervous system. It only talks about the brain. So again, if you want to just handle Mukape, like try to answer most of these questions that he will be bringing in neuroanatomy, if you can have your Chaurezia volume 4, in fact, I would even advise you to buy a hard copy Chaurezia volume 4. Why? Because neuroscience, you're going to learn it all the way until December. So you can buy Chaurezia volume 4, have it as a hard copy, so that it's easier for you to revise. That's the only book I would recommend for anyone to buy. Then there's another book called Essentials Neurosciences. It's just called Essentials Neurosciences. So Essentials in Neuroscience is not as detailed, but it's good for understanding. Chaurezia is very detailed. It usually answers most of Mukape's questions. Then for physiology, neurophysiology, the very same books we are using when you're doing your physiology are the very same books you should be using when you're doing neurophysiology. Okay, Essentials of Medical Physiology. For those that got used with Ganon, go ahead and proceed with Ganon, but I don't like that book because it's confusing. Okay, Essentials of Medical Physiology is the best neurophysiology textbook, and it answers almost all the MCQ questions that you'll be finding in neurosciences. Okay, then for neuropharmacology, we have Kazang and Travers, and I'll talk about this book in detail when I start talking about pharmacology. Remember, the very same people that I will be teaching you pharmacology are the very same people that will be teaching you under neuropharmacology. So even the books to use should be the same. Okay. So these are the books in case you want to see them. Chareza Volume 4 here. That's for the brain. The very same book we are using during your third year, which is Essentials. I still recommend this book. If you want Gaiton, you can go for Gaiton, but this book is the best where neurophysiology is concerned. Then Essential Neuroscience. This is the one which tackles a bit more of anatomy and it tackles a bit of physiology. It's in between like that. But there are some questions it doesn't really answer, especially Mukapid's deep questions and Mrs. Munonkila's deep physiology questions. Those ones can be answered if you use Essentials, and for Mukapi, most of the times if you use neuroanatomy, brain neuroanatomy, Chawesia. Okay. And like I said, for neuropharmacology, the book to use is Kazang and Travers. I will talk about it under pharmacology section, why this book is very, very important. And if I told there is a book you should be studying in pharmacology, it should just be this book, supplementing it with the notes in class, plus probably dipping quotes. Those are the only books I will recommend when you start talking about pharmacology. Okay. And then of course, ask the guys who are going into 5th year. Okay, they brought them diagrams under neuroscience. There are diagrams that will be coming where Mukape is concerned. Remember, it's like anatomy the way it was in biology, histology, and the growth, and then everything eventually when you're writing a test or an exam, all the 3 components will be in the exam. So one of the things Mukape still brings are diagrams. So you still go back to your atlases, be studying the brain this time around. Okay. So if there's a course that people fail for year 4, is the very same course. I know pathology is okay, and probably this year it's bad. Might be the rumors to say that it's bad this year pathology. But when you still compare pathology and neuroscience, most people fail neuroscience than any other course at year 4. Why? I think some of the things were already mentioned by Dennis and Dorica, okay? The way they start the course, it starts very slow. They won't be teaching and the like, and it's a course where you cannot gun. I think physiology you can gun a bit. Physiology you can gun. You can gun CVS without understanding your respiratory system. Neuroscience is hard because it has to be followed systematically. Like you have to understand the basics, then start building up on them. You cannot just go straight to the cerebellum without understanding the spinal cord, for example. And that is the reason why neuroscience is hard. People fail to gun it. It's hard for it to be gunned. And because it's hard for it to be gunned, people end up failing their exam year in, year out. When I was a 4th year, 30 people were carrying neuroscience. 30 people, I mean, when I say carrying, I mean had the issues. Then within the 30, some of them ended up on part-time, and they're still repeating neuroscience as we speak in 4th year. Some of them, they ended up having supplementary exams, okay? And some of them managed to pass. But my point is, a killer course at 4th year is neuroscience. And the reason is there's only one reason. Is because the way it is taught in class. It's never taught the way these other courses are taught, okay? Someone has their mic unmuted. Can you mute yourself? I'm able to get feedbacks. Just check your mic and mute yourself, okay? Pay attention to every assignment or quiz given. I think Dennis emphasized on that, okay? As one of those people who was marking those assignments and assignments that were given, Okay, we realized that people were not really paying attention to the assignment. And now the worst part about it, it was given 10 marks. It was given 10 marks. And then now when the CA came out, people were getting 2 out of 10 on the assignment. And remember, the test was bad as well. So people were getting CAs as low as the 18, CAs as low as 20, which is really, really bad. So pay attention to the assignments. If you're given an assignment, put in all your best. Don't copy paste. Do not copy paste. Mrs. Zimon, the course coordinator for this course, is very strict. Even when you are marking, she makes sure she double checks everything. So be sure to pay attention to the assignments. Okay. In terms of teaching, the funny thing about this course, it's not bulky. It's not as bulky as these other courses, because even teaching, it only appears once every week, and those days are Mondays. So every Monday is actually for neuro. That's what Mondays for neuro, because you have labs for neuro, you have classes for neuro. Even tutorials would have them on Mondays with the students. Okay. Practicals, it's only one practical per week, and some of the practicals you won't even do, just like what happened in physiology. Okay. Continuous assessment, 40% in total. Written test, so you can, depending with time, like these guys, they never really had time, so they only wrote 2. Okay, the last test they wrote it in the study break. A study break, that is when they were writing test 2. Then test 1, they wrote it again very late because of the fact, you see the reason, but you will see the reason why neuroscience is considered to be bad, because it's not taught properly. Okay. Head and neck, the very same head and neck you are doing. Okay. It changes depending with how the course coordinator feels like. Okay. Last time for these guys, it was given 5 marks. In our case, when I had head and neck, it was 7. So, but it's between 5 to 7%. So all those things you're going to do in 1 month, they'll end up cutting 7 to 5%. Okay. Then the assignment for this particular year, she gave it a 10. Okay. And then the labs were about 5. So total is 40. Right. Final exam, ideally, you should have 2 papers. So paper 1 is for MCQs, paper 2 it's for essays and scenarios. But this year, from the time COVID started, actually, so from 2021, 2022 years in a row, only 1 paper has been written. Okay. But that's not standard. The standard is that there are 2 papers. So it means it can change at any time. It can revert back to the way it was. Okay. In terms of MMRs, but why is this picture here? In terms of MMRs, I'm the one who's going to be teaching neuroscience on MMRs. I'll start with head and neck with you. The entire journal will just be doing head and neck, and it was stressful when I was teaching head and neck this year, because I was a student on MMRs, that is, trying to make sure that I cover as much as I can so that the students can benefit. But most of them came back to say that the tests were okay. And Dennis, I remember saying that this, I think he had 88 out of 100, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, under head and neck. But Dennis was, that guy is a serious student. Dennis, Dorica, they are serious students, those guys. So I'll be the one teaching you neuroscience on MMRIs. Let's move on to pharmacology. Okay, so yes.
Before you move on, there are questions in the chat.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one asks, are the 3 parts of neuroscience taught simultaneously, and do we have different?
They taught simultaneous, and do we have what?
Separate tests for each part.
No, they are taught, okay, being taught simultaneously, yes. So you find that maybe this week there is a class for neuroanatomy, the other week you are learning the neurophysiology, just like that, pharmacology. So the timetable, the way your anatomy timetable was, you saw that it was just anatomy, and then it had courses for embryology, histology, and growth. It was just one thing like that. And then the lecturers were just following the topics that will be taught in a week or at a particular day. That is how neuroscience schedule is as well. So it will come out as neuroscience, and then it will give you topics, and then they'll be telling you that this is neuroanatomy here, this is neuro thingy. but being taught at the same time as you move. Then when you are writing a test, all three components in test one will pop up. Test two, all three components will pop up. Even the exam, just like how your anatomy was within biology, histology, and gross. I hope I've answered that.
Yes, and then the other questions, how about Keith Imo, clinically oriented anatomy? I think
How
this was a book. I think this is a book. Someone is asking to say, how about Keith Imo? Yeah, I think the I is an initial, clinically oriented anatomy. I think this is a book.
So I don't know where. This is my first time hearing about that book. That me, if the fact that it's my first time hearing that book, hearing about that book, and I like books, it means it's not a good book to use on where neuroscience is concerned. And neuroscience, despite liking physiology, neuroscience is one of the courses. In fact, it's my best. I enjoy neuroscience. So because that book is I'm hearing it for the first time, I don't think you should be going about with books that have never been used before at UNZA. Stick to the books that have been used, that we've been using at UNZA, because these lecturers, even when they're coming up with that question, and there's another book I've forgotten to mention. Now, but once we start the course, I'll be able to mention it. It's not here. Very, very good. They even copy paste some of the scenario questions from that book. I will talk about it when we start learning, when we start actual classes.
Okay, the other question is, what does PGY and PTM stand for?
I think I did talk about that. I said PGY is physiological sciences. Then PTM is pathology and microbiology. So all the courses that are coming from the Department of Physiological Sciences, they have a PGY initial. Biochemistry is PGY. Physiology is PGY. Neurosciences is PGY. Pharmacology is as well PGY. So all of these, they come from the same department. PTM, you saw that your immunology at year 2, year 3 was starting with PTM. So it's coming from PTM department. Microbiology and pathology, they as well come from the same department. So they also start with PTM.
Okay, and the other question is, does that mean we won't do anatomy of the lower limb?
Yes, you won't go back to that. So now this is the thing, they won't teach that. It's done. That's it. You are done. You are not going back to that. But remember that you are learning your anatomy because they are preparing you for surgery. So surgery will come back. And the assumption when you become 4th years and 5th years is that you already did everything. So especially when the results come out. Right now, I understand you have to go through things you already planned. And that's the thing with supplementary exams. They can also bring things that were never taught in class. It's supplementary exams, there is no boundary to say that this was taught in class, the coverage ended up to here. And by the way, supplementary exams, they don't include your CA. If you have a supplementary exam, you have to make sure you get a 5th in that paper because you don't have your CA. Okay, so my point is, if you have a supplementary exam, Mukabe can just decide to bring the lower limb. And that's why Dr. Kanyumbu said that they are hard, they are really hard. Sometimes they won't even bring MCQs. They can just bring a scenario, essays, in anatomy, essays alone and diagrams. Okay, the format is not even fixed for supplementary exams. So my advice is, have an idea of what the lower limb is all about. Have an idea like that. You're having ideas just in case maybe there's a SAP, or maybe in preparation for your 5th year when you start doing your surgery, because those things will still come back. There's no such a thing as a doctor necessarily to a surgical case on the lower limb. Someone will come up with a fracture of the lower limb. You need to fix that person. And this is the only time you can learn your anatomy. I hope I've answered that question.
Okay, the other question is, what grade did you get in neuroscience?
What grade did I get in neuroscience? I know that's a very good question. I got a B+ in neuroscience. I had a B+ in it. I enjoyed it. And one of the things I used to do is, because the people used to say neuroscience in your course, neuroscience in your course. What did I do? Neuroscience and pharmacology, I used to study them every day. At least I would spare an hour studying neuroscience, because I realized, and I ended up teaching my, I enjoy group discussion because that is where I practice teaching. So I'll be there, and then when I study, I'll be teaching the friends of mine, and then I'll be perfecting. But yeah, neuroscience, I enjoyed neuroscience, and because I was doing it on a daily basis, it actually worked well for me. And I'm encouraging everyone here in this meeting to be studying neuroscience and pharmacology daily, at least revising, spare an hour just to revise pharmacology, spare an hour just revising neuroscience. Yeah, but pathology and these other things, I was getting like my B's. I think I have a C+ in one course. Nikos Banjit. Oh yeah, it's communication skills. Is it? Oh, it's that. I think I have a C+ somewhere, but I don't know which course, but it's not neuroscience at least. We also get C+. Any other questions? You are good, we can move?
Yeah, all the questions in the chat are done.
Okay, so pharmacology. Again, this
Sorry, Doc.
course. Yes.
Someone has just posted a question. The question is, what if there's no one willing to make a group discussion with you? What do you do?
What is if there's no one willing to make group discussion with you? I think there's always someone. There's someone who has the mic unmuted. There is always someone, like, okay, it's hard, but as you are attending classes, you can always find someone who is interested in group discussions. There is always someone. Or if you see your friends have a group discussion, sometimes you don't need to create your own group discussion. Just fuse yourself in the already existing group discussion. Yeah. Okay, so pharmacology, again, pharmacology, despite it being bad, I was scared. At least I had seniors that were saying, I remember Edmond to say, at year 4, there are 2 killer courses, PGY, they are all PGYs, and that was pharmacology and neuroscience. When I heard that pharmacology, I was studying it daily. And the reason why I was studying pharmacology daily, I'm one of the people I think there's someone who has their mic unmuted. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic. I'm getting feedbacks. It's because of the drugs. You'll be memorizing a lot of drugs and they have weird names, okay? And I'm just bad when it comes to memorizing. And surgery was I was having difficulties learning surgery because of the fact that there is a whole lot of memorizing, different from internal medicine because it's more like physiology and these are that. There was more of memorizing, but I realized after 7 years, throughout my 7 years, to say that I'm just bad when it comes to memorizing. And pharmacology, that means for me, for something to stick, I need to repeat, like I need to go through it, read it in here, read it in there. That's what I started doing with pharmacology. And my CA came out very good. I think it was 29, and people were failing. So pharmacology is one of the courses you should be, I think Dorica mentioned this, spare at least an hour revising through the drugs. They are hard to sink in the brain. You'll be doing a lot of drugs where pharmacology is concerned, okay? And when it comes to failing, now that they started bringing to my test from online, maybe because of that, people will end up having good CAs. But if you have normal pharmacology without online test and without online test, people were failing. If the results come out, neuro would be top, then pharmacology second. Pathology and micro will come in as the second or third. Sometimes microbiology, no one would fail, okay? But if pharmacology will come in second because of the fact that there is a whole lot of things to memorize and most of those things are drugs, okay? You just need to revise and you will study a topic today, next week you forget. You remember the principles really, like you remember that this drug, there is a drug called this, it acts like that, but you can't remember the name of the drug. That is where the problem was with pharmacology. And in the questions, they'll be asking you, they'll give you different types of drug and you need to spot out which one they're talking about in the question. So make sure you should be revising your pharmacology at like almost every day for those things to sticking. I think that's what Dorica said, which is a very, very good advice. You should take it serious. Okay. Then when it comes to textbook, this is the book I recommend, guys. I had that CA of mine 29 because of this book. Okay. I never even used much of the notes, but this book, the reason why this book is good is there are two versions of this book. There is a bulky version, and then this version is very simple. When you start a topic, by the way, for you to understand pharmacology, you need to understand your physiology. So what this book does, if let's say you're learning about pharmacology of the GIT, it will give you a brief overview of the physiology of the GIT. So it means you don't need to go back to your physiology to revise your physiology. It gives you relevant physiology needed to understand on that particular topic. Huh? Once it gives you the relevant physiology, now dives into the classification of the drugs. The drugs for the GIT are classified, blah, 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 blah. When it's done, it now talks a bit about those drugs, but like you can finish them, you can read them even in 2 hours like that. It's easy for you to repeat in terms of reading this book. Once it's done, dive into my questions and answers. But most importantly, it will now have a table that will summarize all the drugs. And you know, for the drugs, you need to memorize the side effects, the pharmacodynamic, pharmacokinetics. There are things to memorize. Side effects of the drug. When this drug is taken, what are the other side effects? So now at the end of each topic in this book, there is a table, nice table, so, and then they'll be putting the drugs. If you just be reading that Shima table every day, at least you are just revising using that Shima table, you do very well in your pharmacology. In the details about other things will be talked about by someone who will be teaching this course. But this book is a recommended book, okay? There's also limping quotes, okay? But this book you should have. Use it along with the class notes, okay? All right, so I think whatever is here I've already mentioned. Teaching pharmacology has 3 hours every week. So there's one session for 2 hours, then the other session is just for an hour. So total is 3 hours. And then practicals, 3 hours every week, once per week, okay? Continuous assessment, you also have written tests in here. There are assignments, we had quizzes as well, and the quiz we were given, or the quizzes were given when I was a 4th year, 10 marks, and we did very well. And the good part about the quizzes we had, we were put in groups to write them as groups, so it wasn't that bad. Final exam, ideally, again, it's supposed to be 2 papers, but 2 years after COVID, 2 years in a row, because I don't know, the physiological science department, I don't know, they just decided that people, for now, they should be writing 1 paper. Even physiology wrote 1 paper, okay, you see, but physiology should be 2, pharmacology should be 2, neuroscience should be 2, but for now, physiological department has been, all the courses that are coming from the physiological sciences department has been 1 paper, so it can revert back to normal, but if it reverts back, that is the format. In case of MMRS, Chimuka Simonga is the one that will be handling pharmacology this time around. That is on MMRS next year, January. Pathology. We move on quickly to pathology. I know it's a long session, but it's worth it anyway. So I'm about 2 more, then we'll be. Yes, there are questions?
Yes, there's a question. Someone is asking, is organic chemistry needed in pharmacology?
Is organic chemistry needed in pharmacology? Yeah, so it is needed. Yes, if you go in your curriculum, the prerequisites of pharmacology is organic chemistry, physiology. Yeah, organic chemistry, physiology. Now chemistry apa year 1, so chemistry apa year 1, organic chemistry, physiology. Those are the prerequisites. Meaning, for you to understand certain things in pharmacology, you actually need your organic chemistry. That is the reason why it was never scrapped out entirely at year 2 because of pharmacology. But still more, like, to be honest, like if you were to totally remove organic chemistry, someone can still understand pharmacology without it. But yeah. Any other questions?
No, you can proceed.
All right, let's now move on to pathology. Okay. This course I was telling the fourth years when I met them per corner, I was like, if you want to have a SAP if you want to have a SAP at year 4, at least have a SAP in pharmacology and have a SAP in neuroscience. Why? Because these courses, despite being hard and a lot of people fail, it's easy for you to revise pharmacology, it's easy for you to revise neuroscience, but never have a SAP in pathology, guys. Having a SAP in pathology is the worst thing that can ever happen to you per fourth year. It is bulky, okay? It's not the bulkiest, but it is bulky. And you'd be asking yourself, which one is the bulkiest? Pathology, you see, it's more like physiology. Remember that when we are learning physiology, at the end of each topic, we would concentrate on the diseases. Yeah? CVS will concentrate on the symptomatic diseases. Respiratory, we talked about COPD, bronchiectasis. Now, those diseases, that's what you'll be talking about in this pathology, okay? So it will just be diseases and diseases and diseases. This is a course that usually bridges the clinical and the preclinical side, okay? So these diseases you are learning, these are very same diseases you'll be seeing or you'll be finding when you go to the wards. Because of that, there is need of you to learn a lot of diseases before you cross the road, before you go to the other side. And that is what Emma was saying, okay? You can climb it, but it will still catch up with you when you go ahead to year 5 or year 7, because these are the very same diseases you'll be finding in patients. These are the very same diseases you'll be finding in patients, okay? So, in terms of parts, it's divided into 4 parts. Okay, so neuroscience, it was divided into 3 parts. Pathology, on the other hand, is divided into 4. So there is what we call as general pathology, which is also called histopathology. By the name, you should know what you will be learning under this subsection. This histo part is coming from histology, and you know what histology is studying of what? Tissues. So it means you are now going to be studying tissues that are diseased, histopathology, okay? And that is the reason why histology is important, because you need to be understanding histopathology. Then you have systemic pathology. So it will be this, by the name, you should know what to expect. It means you'll be studying system diseases found in each system. GIT, all the diseases found under GIT. CVS, all the diseases found under CVS. And then now, if your basics in your physiology are not as strong, you might be having issues understanding some of the concepts, not all of them, some of them in like CVS, for example, knowing how heart failure comes about. For you to understand how heart failure comes about, there is need of you to understand how the heart works, which is your physiology. Then there is what we call as chemical pathology, and lastly, you have your hematology. So these are the 4 sections of your pathology. And each of these sections has different lecturers, meaning you have lecturers that will be coming under histopathology, lecturers that will be coming in for pathology, lecturers for histopathology and systemic pathology are usually the same. Chemical pathology are different lectures. They went to school, they did their master's just in chemical pathology. Hematologist, Madam Mara, the one who was teaching you immunology, she's actually, she did hematology. She did master's in hematology. So she will be one of those people that will be coming in to teach you hematology together with other doctors, okay? So let's move on to the tips and pointers. Because these are different sections of pathology, which means books to use again will be different. The book you use in chemical path is not the same you are going to be using in hematology. So you end up having about 3-4 books that you'll be using for each subsection. Okay, so I'll start with these first 2, general pathology and systemic pathology. So the books, the recommended book by the school is Robbins. I like textbooks. I like bulky textbooks, but this is the worst textbook, and I don't like, up to now, I don't like it, okay? But this is just me and my preference. I never liked it. The font was not good and so I never really liked it. But you can try it out, and if you feel like it's a good book for you, stick to it, okay? But the book I would recommend and make sure you should be studying that book is this book here. There's a question? Someone wanted to say something?
No, it's fine, you can continue.
Okay, the book I recommend on the other hand, so this is a book recommended by the department, by the lecturers. They every time they come in class, they'll be like, go and read your Robbins, go and read your Robbins. But the book I recommend to you guys as a former student myself, even sometimes when I want to revise something from the word, I'll just quickly go to this, the very same book is this book here written as Exam Preparatory Manual for Undergraduate Pathology. This book is really nice. One, the Tuma notes, they are in point form, just like how Chaurezia is. And most importantly, it has questions. So whenever a topic starts, they'll write you a question, like in essay form, and then they'll put the notes in such a way that they are answering that particular question. So it was easy for me. I like this book. It's a very good book, but again, because pathology is bulky, it's summarized, but it has a lot of things, but better than this book, in my opinion. So I recommend this book. But if you want a summarized version of either of the two, Pathoma, this kind of book is more like your BRS. So BRS, those BRS you are using at year 3, year 2, they do not really work at year 4. You find that they become useless. So you now have to go for other supplementary textbooks. So this kind of Pathoma is more like a BRS, but for pathology. Which pathology? General pathology and systemic pathology. These are the books you'll be using when you're learning these two components. Okay. Then for hematology, if you want the textbook, this is a book that has been put for you, but most of the times notes are sufficient. Okay, notes given in class by the lecturers are usually sufficient when it comes to hematology. But if there is need of you to use a textbook, this is a recommended textbook, and this is the book that Kowa, there's a an hematology doctor called Dr. Kowa. His notes, all his slides are just a summary of this very same book. Chemical pathology. Okay, so it's this. There is no book. That's a thing. Chemical pathology does not have a textbook. So most of the times, the guys the lecturers that studied that did masters in chemical pathology, they use higher books to come up with the notes to teach at year 4. Okay, so there is no book, but there is no standard textbook. But with time, when I came in, I think as a 4th year, there's a student who had found a book at, I think it was online or Google. This kind of book is called University Cape Town. It's a kind of PDF. Okay, this kind of, we later find out that is where they were copy pasting. The lecturer would copy paste notes from there, and then the lecture, it has questions, by the way. All the questions that came on our exam, they were just copy pasted from here. In fact, when we knew that this is where they were getting questions, and not MCQs, by the way, guys, as in, remember Dorica said that you'll be writing essays here because they want to see if you're able to think clinically. Okay, so essays are a must in pathology, despite being 1,000, they'll make sure that you're given essays or scenarios. So this book has scenario questions and it had answers. So when we knew the entire one study breakage, we were just gunning answers, questions and answers. And they came in the exam the way they were in this very same book. So whenever chemical pathology, where chemical pathology is concerned, this is the only book. There is no standard textbook for chemical pathology. You have to get notes from this book for you to come up with proper notes for chemical path. But for you as a student, this is a book to use. Make sure you should be going through the questions as well in the towards the end of each topic. In addition, don't discard the notes because you don't have a textbook. You have to stick to the class notes given to you by the chemical pathologist. Tips and study pointers. Okay. So for this one, you are going to write a lot of tests, by the way. But the first test, like Dennis said, they're usually simple. So make sure you charge You cannot charge your test 4, your test 3, test 4. It will be bulky. There will be a lot of things that will be towards the end of the exam. But you can charge your test 1. Aim to get a 9, and it's very, very possible to get a 9 in test 1. But as you keep on having more tests, more things are coming in and to be bulkier and to be hard for you to even get a 50. So the first test, make sure you charge. And by charging, it means you have to start going through questions for test 1 as soon as possible. You learn a topic, start going through questions. Don't wait until the actual classes start. Remember, your classes are starting in February 20, February 20th, somewhere there. By the time the results come out on the 9th of January and you know that you've cleared, by the time you are reaching February 20th, you should have gone through a lot of past papers for your test 1 so that you aim to get a lot of marks. Remember, Emma said that they don't give free marks, but they look at where students did well. So it's possible they can give a lot of marks in test 1, try to moderate the exam towards the end. Okay. Do not let topics pile up. Once you do that in Shkwapwa, this course is bulky. I think Dennis and Dorica talked about that. Because it's bulky, even the lecture sessions are even more. You'll be learning more of pathology than in neuroscience and pharmacology. It appears a lot of times on the timetable. I think we had it on Monday, 2 hours, and then there was a Tuesday, 2 hours. There was another day, I think on Thursday, 1 hour, and then on Friday, 2 hours. Each of those hours, like on Monday, for example, for us, we used to do hematology. Tuesday, they would come for chemical path, and then Friday, I think that was the systemic. That's how we are learning it. But these guys are the ones that are from finishing. They started a bit earlier, so they actually, the teaching was spaced in such a way that when they were done with hematology, they went to chemical path. But for us, we are doing them simultaneously. It can be the same with you guys because your classes are starting way late, somewhere in March, and you have to close in November. So it will be, you get it, right? In terms of assessment, written tests are 35. So all the tests we're going to write, they can be 4 or 3 or 4, somewhere there. They will end up carrying 35%. And then the labs at 5%. Final exam, if there's a department that is loyal at making sure that students, despite the number, the students, they will write 2 papers, it is the PTM department. Okay, they will make sure the senior students, they make sure that they wrote paper 1, MCQs, they were about 150, if not 200, if I'm not mistaken. And students were complaining that they were hard MCQs because they were all scenario, not those to my MCQs, were which of the following is to know. They were all scenarios and there were about 150 of them. Then paper 2, it was there were scenarios, but where you get to write on your own written paper. Okay. On MMRS, we have her name is Rebecca. She is the one that will be teaching pathology. She's actually doing masters. She studied masters in clinical pathology. Okay. To our tutor Emma will also be helping out. Remember that pathology is bulky, so you need more people to help out with that particular course. Because if you just give one person, the person will be overwhelmed. So we need more people. I might as well be coming in just to help out with some topics as well. So he will be helping out with pathology as well. And then we have Vene. He's also doing masters in hematology. He started this year. So he'll be the one, Vene is not this guy. I think there's a wrong picture, but he'll be the one teaching that course on MMRIs, that part of the pathology. Let's move on to the second last one. Then we call it second last one, then you move to the last one, we call it a day. Are there any questions?
Yes, there is only one question. I heard the lecturer for pharmacology is automatic repeat. Is it true?
The lecturer for pharmacology is what?
The question reads, I heard the lecturer for pharmacology is an automatic repeat. Is it true?
The all automatic, meaning he repeats question? Dr. Kanimba? That's what I can't get the question. Like automatic repeat, you mean he repeats question?
As in you fail, you get a supplementary exam. Like
automatic repeat. No.
Hold on. Sorry, let me just ask the person to retype the whole question because they are sending bits of a question and it's kind of confusing to understand what they're asking.
Okay. If you have any questions, guys, just unmute yourself and ask that question. If you can unmute yourself, it's easier to ask that question, then I'll be able to get and I'll respond. Anyone with questions before we move on to medical microbiology, the second last part of the presentation?
Okay, so the question was, I heard that if you have a SAP in pharmacology, you have essentially repeated.
Okay, I get it. So last year, we had, that's what happened. I get, obviously, that question is coming from what happened last year. Last year, 20 people had supplementary exams in pharmacology. All of them were writing for supplement. Out of 20, only one cleared, and then the rest ended up being repeating. And that is why these 4th years heading into year 5 ended up being a lot. Okay, now the reason why only one person passed, and MMRs by that time came up with free orientation. Like we were just helping out anyone who had SAPs. We were like, after we saw that we've cleared, and then we saw that people had SAPs, we were like, let's help out our friends. Then when we started teaching, we realized that all those people we were helping in pharmacology, even the basics, like they didn't know the basics. Even when you're helping them out, you even know for sure to whenever end up with it's not going to be things. Okay, so it has nothing to do with what you're talking about. If someone has a SAP, it goes back to what Dr. Kanyumbu said. Just know yourself. You know that you have if you feel like you have a SAP in a particular course, start studying now. Okay, because what happened with those guys with pharmacology, that they only had one week to study all the drugs, and only one person cleared out of 20. Not because that's what happens in the department, but because you need to get a 50 for you to clear. And these lecturers at UNZA, they are very strict. There's not such a thing as giving someone free marks. And that's how those people ended up failing. So it's not a mass. They don't fail people, no. But if people put in their best, people do pass. Okay. I think I've answered that question. Okay, so let's quickly move on to my medical microbiology. I know I'm from talking about pathology being bulky, but if there is a bulkiest course, is microbiology. And I think it is the least favorite course. Yes, Doc.
Sorry, there are questions in the chat box.
Okay, fine.
Will you also help out people with SAPs this year?
Yes, yeah, we were planning on, we already have plans for that. So most likely this week, the results for 4th years, when they come out, we'll come on board and we'll try to help them out. Even next year, somewhere January, when your results are out, we'll try by all means to help out everyone who might end up having a SAP that time, so that we move together like that. So yes, we will, definitely.
Okay, the last question is there such a thing as being part-time at Ridgeway, or you repeat the whole year with all the courses?
That's a good question. When I came in as a 3rd year, the rules were you fail one course, you repeat even the courses you passed. It was like that not until when I was a 5th year. So when we were 5th years, they now changed. Senate had to sit because of competition. At medicine now has competition, Apex, and so because of competition, people were now scared coming to UNZA. They were like, let's revise some rules. So they changed the rules when I was a 5th year. There are some students I know. There's a student I know. She failed physiology at year 3. We left her. And then we went to year 4. And then that year she was repeating everything. Those were the rules. You have to repeat all the courses, even if you got an A+. Then when we went to year 4, she remained as year 3. Then she failed biochemistry, passed physiology. Again, she had to remain, and then went to year 5. It was bad, but now they changed. So you only repeat the courses you failed. So you guys, your medicine is not that bad as compared to those guys that did it before you. Now things change. You only fail If you only repeat that course, you failed. Any other question?
No, you can proceed.
Okay, so I was talking about medical microbiology being the bulkiest. I mean, pathology is bulky, but medical microbiology, this course is bulky. And unlike pathology, you can relate to some of the things, but microbiology things are new. Remember, you were introduced to a bacteria. Focus was more of immunology, and your immunology, by the way, will be applicable throughout your year, but you never learn, you never go back to it again. Whatever you learned as Med 3s and Med 2s in immunology will be the first topic in pathology. Inflammation is very important, that your immunology is in your head like that. But that microbiology you did, you can see it was very short and very easy. People were just gunning like that. It was just an introductory, and they only introduced you to bacteria. Now, this microbiology you'll be doing, which is a full course, it is the bulkiest because it's divided into 5, and the way it is divided, it's divided in such a way that each party concentrates on a particular pathogen. Parasitology, meaning you just be studying parasites. Bacteriology, you just be doing bacteria. Mycology, that's fungi. Virology, viruses, all the viruses, including COVID-19. Questions for COVID-19 will be coming. Then systemic microbiology is now, you've learned all these pathogens. Now you want to apply them to the body. Now the diseases they cause. So you start going system, but in the GI, these are the pathogens and these are the diseases. So that's how you'll be learning your microbiology. So you can see this is actually the bulkiest as compared to pathology. Okay. And even the tests, you have about 5-6 tests you are going to write in microbiology. Okay, that's why Dennis said that he had about 15 tests in the whole year. The reason why those tests end up being that much because of this very same course. Okay, so each part of the microbiology has different lecturers. So there are lecturers that specialize in parasitology. When you start learning parasitology, they'll be coming to teach. Those lectures will be coming to teach parasitology. Bacteriology. There are some lecturers that are specialized in bacteriology. One of them is Mr. Mulowa, the one who was teaching you in the introductory, and then you have Gina, Gina, who is the course coordinator. Okay, the course coordinator for this course. Then mycology, the very same guys will be coming, and then virology, you have guys that specialized in virology that will be coming to teach you in viruses. Then in systemic microbiology, the guys usually that come are the guys that do bacteriology. So you'll be learning these, but the way microbiology is, you won't be learning these at the same time. You actually be moving step by step. So you start with parasitology. When you're done, go to bacteriology. When you're done with bacteriology, go back to parasitology. Part 2, when you're done with parasitology, move to mycology, virology, then lastly, systemic microbiology. It will be systematic like that. You won't learn everything at the same time, like in pathology or maybe neuroscience. Okay. But the good part about it, despite it being bulky like that, it is the course where you can actually get A's throughout in all the tests. If there's a test, if there's a course you can be getting B pluses and A's throughout, it is this course. What you happen is that it's systemic. You learn parasitology, you gun, you write your test, and then you most of the time you just throw it away. Then you go to the other section, you gun, and then just like that. So it is one of those courses you can actually get and you can be consistent just getting good grades like that. But now the exam is where now things become bad. You would have totally forgotten. Like, guys, I didn't know anything when I was going in the exam where parasitology is concerned. I read, I understood, but it was too much for me. I never remembered anything in parasitology when I was going to write my exam. I was just writing, guessing, just like that, because there are a lot of things. I remember you have to know these bugs by name, all the bacteria by name, all the parasites by name, all the everything. So it becomes bad when it comes to the final exam. And that is where now people people fail to get those A's or A pluses overall because of the final exam. It comes and reduces you like that. Okay. In terms of books, because these are different specialties, it means even the books you'll be using will be different. So for parasitology, I'll start with bacteriology, virology, and systematic microbiology. So all these, there is a book called Mechanism of Microbial Disease. This is a book I would recommend really for these three. So this Shima book has the bacteriology section, it has virology section, and it has a systemic microbiology section. And the course coordinator for this course actually copy paste her notes just directly from here. So in a case where you're reading her notes and they're not clear, you can just go in this book, even the way it is, like everything like that, all the notes are taken from this book. That is the course coordinator. Her name is Gina, Dr. Gina. Yeah. Then for parasitology, there is a book called Panicas. Very good book. It's more like Chaurasia, so, you know, on point like that. So this is the book to use in addition to the notes. So do not throw away your notes. These microbiology, you have to lean on mostly on the notes, the class notes, and then supplement it with a book if you want. Panicas with the book, but Panicas was really good. I was using this book when I was a 4th year. Okay, so these are the only books really if you want to use textbook. Okay. Then for assessments, someone has their mic unmuted. Can you mute yourself? Okay, thank you. For continuous assessments, 40%, labs 5%, written test 35%, and there are 5 tests, and I have to write them how we are going. I have to write them down on how we are going to go about with them. Test 1 will be parasitology 1. Test 2 most likely bacteriology. Test 3 parasitology plus mycology, or it can be other way, but yeah, it's usually the combination of the two. Test 4 virology. Test 5 systemic microbiology. Okay, so this is a standard. Usually have 5 tests. So you can have 4 or 5. It can change depending with the time you get to have in that academic year. But these guys, they will make sure they give you more than 3 tests. More than 3 tests is a must because of the fact that different lecturers will be coming in and different lecturers are marking. So they won't, it's different from where Dr. Wind is the one doing the interviews. So if you want, he can just give you 1 or 2 tests. For these ones, have different lectures, and they will make sure that when they teach that component, they are given a test. Final exam, these guys have been loyal from the word go. Even when COVID was in, it was mpaka, remember 2 papers. Okay, just like for pathology. So MCQs, they plus scenario questions. On MMRS, this is the doctor that will be teaching you microbiology, but you have 2. Dr. Melissa as well. She's not in the slides, but she'll be another person that will be teaching you microbiology. Do we have any questions so far before we move on to the last course, which is clinical skills? Then we're done, which is not that bad.
There's a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a suggestion.
Okay.
Please share content tutors on YouTube that are very helpful with these courses.
And please try what?
Please share important tutors on YouTube that are important, that are helpful with these courses.
Or as in getting their videos and posting them on YouTube. They mean, right?
The way you recommended NinjaNet in the other meeting.
Oh, no, for microbiology, there is no such a thing. Remember, microbiology is broad like that. Okay, you can see even the divisions. You have different lectures. So it depends with the university. So for us at UNZA, we just know that when Gina comes in, you go about with that, but that is not helpful when it comes to YouTube tutorials where microbiology is concerned. You watch a tutorial video about Staphylococcus aureus, it will be shallow. Okay, it will be shallow as compared to what is needed to be known where Gina is concerned. So most of the time we get to rely on how it is being done at UNZA, because the way UNZA does it is different from how Apex does it, the very same course. And if you are recommended, I've never met any good video on YouTube that can work out with microbiology. Pathology and neuro, you have NinjaNet. NinjaNet does help out in neuroscience, especially, and it does help out in pathology, but in some of the, not the entire pathology, systemic pathology, hematology, zero. Chemical pathology, zero, only systemic pathology. Micro, could even check a video just to give you ideas, but you still have to go back to the notes and what has been recommended to you by your seniors, because of the fact that we are like aware of how they go about with their courses.
The other question is binomial classification important in medical microbiology?
Binomial, no. So that's a thing. By the way, they made threes, the ones using the old curriculum. When they start parasitology, nothing will be new to them. Even when they start bacteriology, nothing will be new to them. Why? Because of the animal diversity. They did that here too. Animal diversity, we start with a single cell, then we'll be moving, it's evolution, right? All the way to humans. So they did some of the things, but that does not mean that they'll be advantage. But my point is, they'll be familiar with the parasites they'll be talking about, Plasmodium and the like. But as long as they're not studying, again, anyone can fail. But for you med tools, everything will just be new. Everything will just be new. And that binomial classification is not important in here.
Okay, you can proceed.
Okay, so the last course is clinical methods and skills. Now, that course is very simple, guys. First of all, it's a half course, as you saw, it ended with a 5. But I don't know how it's going to be, but ideally, the people that help out with that course are medical students that are clinical students. So who are those students? The year 6, the guys who are in year 6. Why did they pick year 60th year students to be helping out with clinical skills? It's because 60th year is not really the easiest year, but you have more time in 60th year. The life is just simpler in 60th year. So they were like, okay, the very same 60th year, because they don't do anything. They are Malingalas, are called Malingalas. 60th years are called Malingalas. So they can be helping out, teach some basic skills, some clinical skills to the juniors who are the 4th years. So the only thing the medical students do is to help you out, know how to go about with the clinical skills, like examination, how to get to examine the patient, how do you measure blood pressure, how do you measure how do you do urinalysis, like that. Those are the things you'll be doing. The 60th year students are the ones that will be coming in to help you, teaching you, but you'll be having classes. Okay, for example, there is a class where you have to know how to examine a patient, examination of a patient. A lecturer will come. Where are those lecturers coming from? The lecturers from, for example, examining a patient in surgical cases. How do you get to examine a patient? So a surgeon will come from UTH. They'll come into your class to teach you on how to go about with examining basic things, really. It's just for you to have ideas. Like, for you to examine a patient, you need to get consent. You greet the patient, you get consent, you explain whatever you want to do. Then now they'll start, that will be theory, you'll learn it in class. Huh? Then there'll be another session now where the students who are 60th year medical students always have time, come, they'll now practically teach you on what you learned in class by that lecturer. It's as simple as that. And this is the only course where if you just do what's supposed to be done, A+ is coming out. A+ is definitely coming out. I'm talking about clinical skills. So this is the course I want to talk about. Now, you notice that at year 3 and year 4, the only thing you needed to buy was the lab coat. Now at year 4, because of clinical skills, there are other additional materials you might need to buy in preparation for this course. You might need a simple stethoscope. You buy a stethoscope because you want to be listening to heart sounds this time around now clinically. There are examinations you'll be doing where the stethoscope might be needed. Don't go for 4-pin stethoscope like as if you're a doctor. I'm the one who's supposed to buy a 4-pin stethoscope because I'll be working as an intern. But for you can buy a 200 or 300 steth as long as you have a steth. buy your any other additional materials. I will highlight them, things that you might need for clinical skills. So that when you're going into the clinical lab, you have everything, not like more impossible kashan, more impossible kashan. So if you have like a bit of money, start. If you don't have, start saving. Don't use it for Christmas and New Year. Start saving so that you can buy your staff, you can buy your proper lab coat. And by the way, whenever you're doing this course, whenever you're going for clinical skills, even dress code has to mimic how we dress at the ward. So for the guys, it's necktie, smartly dressed. That's how it's gonna be. Okay, so that is another course that to be doing, but it's not a hard course really. So this is clinical skills. Okay, sorry, this is I forgot to remove some of the things that are very far now. This is a video. Sorry, this is just a video showing you how we are going to go about with clinical skills. It won't be long. I'll fast forward it, but I just want you to have an idea of what you're going to be doing in clinical skills. So catheterization.
My name's Adam. I'm a final year medical student. Can I check your name? Great. And what's your date of birth, Lewis? It's the 5th of the 9th, 1988. Okay. I need to insert a catheter to monitor your urine output. This will involve me inserting a small flexible tube into your penis to reach the bladder. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be too painful. I'll insert some local anesthetic into the penis to make the procedure as comfortable as possible. Okay, so you can see, this is how we'll be. This is a student. So there's a patient behind the camera. What does it do? He greets the patient, gets the name of the patient, and then starts explaining what he's going to do to the patient. So in this case, what does he want to do? He wants to catheterize the patient. So he wants to put a tube. A catheter is more like a tube, so that the patient can, it's like this patient is not producing urine, but you want to go into the bladder so that you catheterize the patient. So now you have to make sure that you get consent, you explain the procedure to the patient. So these are the things you'll be doing really, and it's really nice. It's not really bad. Local anesthetic. Okay. So overall, then now they'll be showing you the procedure, how to go about. So these are the things you'll be doing at the wards. Okay, you can see. We have dummies as well. You'll be practicing on dummies. So these are the videos you'll be watching on YouTube videos, and the geeky medicine videos. They are there on YouTube. Okay. So when it comes to tests and exams, I said you'll be having one class, one lecture. When a lecture teaches, those lectures will be coming from UTH, because those are the experts in terms of examination and clinical issues. They are the ones that will be teaching you. Once they teach you, the 60th year, and now this is where the problem comes in. There will be this fuse between the ones who will be teaching you and you guys. Make sure you respect the people that will be teaching you, okay? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that will be coming up with us, despite not creating questions, but they are the ones that will be marking you. So if you just have a fuse with them, someone can actually fail you and give you a C. No one really fails clinical skills, but you won't get good marks if you fight with your seniors that will be teaching you this course. So lectures, one practical, you'll be having one practical every week, and that practical will be similar to that arrangement where you'll be put in smaller groups, and then each group will have a medical student who knows how to go about with clinical examination. You do it for an hour, and then the next week again, just like that. Continuous assessment, you have written test 15. OSCE, I want you to find out what OSCE stands for, okay? OSCE is an examination, it's a clinical examination. The very same things you saw in that video, but now they'll give you to say, do it in 7 minutes. I think they give 7 minutes, 7 minutes. And these are the exams you'll be doing at year 5, year 6, year 7. So at year 4, it's like you're just mimicking, so that you have an idea. So that when you go to year 5 or year 4 for a new curriculum, you have ideas. And that's what differentiates us from APEX students. APEX students, they learn everything from, like, when they go to the wards, you know. using real patients, for us to have ideas and to know how to go about it. And that's what really differentiates us between these other guys from other universities and the guys coming from China, because of this very same skill. Other pointers, I think it was already talked about by Tutor Emma. So that is the end of today's orientation program. Do we have any questions?
Okay, so the question. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, whoever said so, you can go ahead and Chiki will come in later.
All right, I've got a question. Wasn't there something, a course like research, something for 3rd years?
Yes, okay, so no, because of time, I never really prepared like notes for it. So research is a half course, research methods is called. So it will just be the way you are learning behavioral sciences. But remember, the focus will be the 3rd years, the CB they do has research. Like there's a component of research, or they may even submit report. But for you, it is now like a half course, meaning you learn more than the 3rd years. Because for the 3rd years, they only do it like for a month, like 1 month, like that. But for you, because it's a half course, meaning it will be graded, you end up having grades. So it's something you could probably have one, because it's new, I don't have like the details on how it's going to be conducted. Once it's done next year, I'll know how it will be. So because it's a half course, you'll be having probably one class every week, and then lecturers will be coming in to teach you the very same lectures that come from DME department. Okay. And then of course, I have been logged out on my PC, but there are any other questions before we go? So for those that are done, for those that are tired, you can log out, but those that have questions, you can ask your questions and I'll be able to answer them. I've been logged out on my PC. I don't know what happened.
Oh, yes, I've got a question. Yeah, I wanted to ask, say for next year, in terms of lectures and whatnot, are we going to be combined with the med 3s to be med 4s, or are we going to be still learning separately?
I don't, but what, this is a question I was asking as well. If you Sorry, my PC just connected abruptly. Yeah, so we don't really, in a case where you guys as med 3s come to Ridgeway campus officially this time around, definitely you'll be combined, and probably we might be using, that's just my guessing. If at all you come, because of that public health lecture theater is now functional, I don't know, something had happened to it. We were using it even when I was a year 4. Something happened to it at a crack, so it was no longer being used. So in a case where they say that will be, the medical students will be allowed, the School of Medicine will be allowed to conduct classes in there, then that means the possibility of med 3s to come at Ridgeway campus might be higher, because they can now do it like the way physiology department did it, where you were in groups, and then first group maybe probably 8 hours, the other group at this particular time. But if the public health, there's a few at Ridgeway campus where public health, School of Public Health, the health sciences, they're all against School of Medicine, So using their things, it's different from how a main campus is, where TLC is something that is for humanities and everyone just uses it. Visual campus Muntanga, it's bad. Everyone is against medical, the guys who are in school of medicine, who are doing medicine. So if they allow them, the new guys can come in and probably you'll be fused with the fours and you'll be learning at the same time. But if that does not happen, unfortunately, you're going to remain at main campus and you continue with your lessons at main campus. So, yeah, that's my guessing, but we'll see by November. Any other question?
Okay, if there are no other questions, I think I can read the ones in the chat.
Okay. So guys, for those that are tired, you can go, but those that have questions, you can remain and I'll be able to answer them. Those that are tired, thank you very much for attending. I'm wishing you all the very best. But guys, if you have become a feeling to say that this course wasn't really good, please just go back and start studying. You won't lose anything, like what Dr. Emma said.
Okay, so Annie was asking, did he actually say that the lower limb will be self-taught?
Oh, yeah, no. Look at how bulky fourth year is. Where can you fuse that lower limb? It's not possible to fuse that lower limb. It's not possible because the course coordinator for neuroscience will tell the anatomy department that you have to be done in a month for your head and neck so that she can start the neuroscience. So where are you going to fuse in? Because at year 4, in fact, there is no anatomy really. The only anatomy that is there is head and neck. There is nothing like anatomy department to have a course. They don't have any course at year 4. So it's done and dusted, just like that.
Okay, the other question is, how about panthoma videos and osmosis? I think this is a question about YouTube tutors or best videos. So the question is, how about panthoma videos and osmosis?
For pathology systemic, I think I said microbiology, there is no specific, could remember videos where you'd say, okay, these are very good in microbiology, but I said in pathology, and it's not the entire pathology. Remember, we divided it into 4. The systemic pathology, and you realize that the pathoma and the osmosis pathology videos, they will become in handy when you start doing your systemic. That will be towards the end. When you're doing your hematology and chemical pathology, it all goes back to the hints that have been given here, plus what you'll be learning in class. I've never seen a video for pathoma in chemical pathology, even osmosis, because chemical pathology it's not really for example, fluid compartment. I'll give a good example. Fluid compartments, those imbalances you learned about hyperkalemia, hypokalemia, and in the group I said, make sure that someone posted the ECG. I was like, keep it because it is coming. Chemical pathology, those are the things you'll be doing. Hyperkalemia, imbalance, anything that has to do with chemicals, but you will never find a video that is just specific for that. It's taught in different books, should I say? Yeah. So osmosis, pathoma, they are good in pathology, but in not the entire pathology. It's only systemic and a bit of histopath.
Okay, and how about medical microbiology made ridiculously simple? That was a question.
Medical microbiology made ridiculously simple. I've never used that. Like I said, if you get that very same book called Medical Microbiology Made Ridiculously Simple, for you to know if it's going to be good, yeah, you can be the first one to know if it's good or not by trying it out, but don't discard what the advice you've been given. Just continue with the advice, try the other books out. You'll be the first one to discover that book, and you'll be the ones to tell the juniors to say, oh, even that book is good. Okay. Otherwise, for microbiology, it was all about that book and the past papers plus the notes.
Okay, the other question reads, can you please repeat a bit on the rules of course codes, like which number means like this number means half course.
Okay, so the only things you need to memorize are the first letter and the last letter. So the first letter of any course represents the year in which that course is being taught. Okay. Then the last letter represents whether that course is a half course or a full course. Okay. So a course that is ending with a 0, it means it's a full course. Whenever you see a course ending with a 0, it's a full course. Even the effort has to be more. Even when you just say a course code, you just have to have it in mind that this course I have to put in more. Okay, irrespective whether it's bulky or not, it means the input to be more. But if it's ending with a 5, it means it's a half course and the input isn't that much. And you find that half courses, even learning it's once every week. Okay. And then if a course is ending with a 9 or a 4, it means it's a project course. Okay, like CB or CB, it's ending with a 9. It means you won't be graded. They won't say at CB you got a C, CB you got a C+. No, they'll just put an S. Okay. And then, yeah, those are the courses with a 4 or a 9. I think I've answered.
Okay, the other question is, when are the classes for MMRA starting?
January, immediately after the results, right after 9th of January, that is when we'll be starting the classes. So we'll have two to 3 weeks to go. So right after the 9th of January, that is when we'll be starting. The reason why we start after 9th of January, so that in a case we have our friends with SAPs, we can help them out. We'll try to fuse in where we'll be learning new things and at the same time helping out our friends that might be unfortunate and might have supplementary exams. So wait a bit, not until that 9th somewhere there, so that you can start.
Okay, and the question says, aren't we
But
supposed
for the Met 2s, we'll start immediately after New Year, but for the Met 3s, 4s, after 9. Yes, go ahead with the question.
It reads, aren't we supposed to know before February whether Met 3s are going to Ridgeway or not?
And you're supposed to know before January whether?
February. Okay, let me just read it. Aren't we supposed to know before February whether Met 3s are going to Ridgeway or not?
No, okay. The thing is, remember, no one knows. Even if no one knows, there's need of the dean to sit with the higher guys, the senate, the chancellor, that side to know to talk about how everything is going to be conducted. They have to sit down and talk about it. They actually sit. Even that timetable, remember there are about 3 timetables that came out this year in March before, because they kept on sitting, they see that it won't work, they changed. At first, Met 3s and Met 2s were supposed to learn together, but there was this issue online. The Met 3s wanted to come here and then they changed, and there were a lot of changes. So no one knows, not until I'm sure after Christmas, they'll start having those meetings and then they'll come up with how to go about.
Okay, the other question is, what do you suggest we do about lower limb? Are we going to cover it here on MMRS?
No, we are not going to cover it here on Sorry. We're not going to cover it here on MMRS. So for the lower limb, you have so far you have the entire 24 hours in a day, right? You have videos. What do you call those videos for? I've forgotten where they were showing how to dissect. Just watching maybe come a video, even Chaurez, and read about here and there like that. It's as simple as that. Like I know you won't know much as compared to when you studied it, but just having ideas is enough, and just in case of anything. But we are not going. We are going into festive break. All of us we need to go on a break and enjoy this festive season with the family. And when that passes, we can now come back for classes and the like.
Okay, the next question is, when are the sub classes starting? I think you've answered this one.
Yeah, January after somewhere 9th going forward.
Okay, so the other question is, when are results coming out? You've been talking about January a lot.
When are what?
When are results coming out?
How do you not know? It's there, right there down Pajapachani. What do you call this? This